What's up, gamers? In the greatest miracle since that time we beat Russia in hockey, I have somehow managed to survive 3,000 days in my hardcore world. While my efforts to trademark the idea from the 1000 Days movie were unsuccessful, that video managed to put so many of you to sleep that I felt obligated to make another one for you all. So with that said, enjoy this video, which is a massive compilation of everything I've done in this world from days 1000 to 3000. Have a great day and sleep tight. I have anxiety, not because the oceans are rising, or because at Christmas this year I have to tell my family I play a kids game for a living. That is gonna be kinda weird though. It's because of this guy, the Warden. You see, Mojang had the bright idea to create a mob that has 2.5 times the health of the Ender Dragon, with a melee attack capable of ending my hardcore world. And even worse yet, I'm pretty sure that they literally made the Warden just to end my hardcore world. So naturally, I'm gonna defeat him and then move into his house. The first thing that I did was load my world into this software called MCA Selector and then remove 250,000 chunks. The Warden is found in the Deep Dark, a biome that spawns in areas of low erosion like mountains and plateaus. You know who else lives in the mountains? Me, that's right, I live in the mountains. And because I reset all the chunks that I haven't spent much time at, I'm pretty sure the Deep Dark and the Warden are pretty close to my spawn. So it begs the question, why would I even want to do this to begin with? You see, much like the Warden, I too just want some peace and quiet. Basically, I am the Warden if I didn't go to therapy. Now, according to research, it costs $650,000 for a peaceful home. But the Deep Dark, apart from the Warden, can't spawn any other mobs. And that sounds pretty nice to me. So the first thing to do is locate the Deep Dark, find an ancient city, and then completely remove the Warden from it. Sounds easy, but it won't be. So I went searching, making sure to check the large cave openings near mountains and plateaus for areas of skulk, which was an indicator that the Deep Dark was present. At first, I looked on the opposite side of my large mountain range, but I couldn't find anything besides some super dark caves, so instead I went back to a neighboring mountain that I have not spent much time at. And to my surprise, I found what I was looking for. Oh my god, I found it. You guys, that is it. That is the Deep Dark. Oh wait, no, that's the Deep Dark. I gotta get out of here. I am not ready to fight this yet. I need a plan. Traversing the Deep Dark and looting an ancient city must be done carefully if you want any chance of success. So I went back home and got to planning. So we're gonna need a bunch of shulker boxes for all the loot we're gonna get, some healing potions, a bunch of snowballs that hopefully we won't actually have to use, a bunch of torches, a few buckets of milk, thank you buttermilk, some spectral arrows, these will come in handy if I actually have to shoot the Warden, which hopefully I don't. So that's basically everything that I need. Now there is one more thing, and that's gonna be a bunch of wool. And just to make sure I had enough, I stayed here until I had a full shulker box of wool. Oh, I'm sorry. That was not nice. There we go, my friends. That took 45 minutes. Oh man, I really need a sheep farm. I am far too lazy for that though. And with that, I think it's time to head off in search of an ancient city. All right, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit nervous right now. This is my first time doing this, so hopefully everything goes okay. I think first we should go ahead and kind of secure the area so mobs can't come at us from behind. That wouldn't be very good, I don't think. Ooh, free diamonds. Hold on. Wait, what? Literally, this is it? This is all I have here? There has to be more to this area, right? Okay, so I don't see any Skulk Shriekers, so I should be good. Hey, there's the advancement. So even if they know that I'm around them, they shouldn't actually be alerting anything. Don't you come near me. You stay away from me. Yeah, I think we're actually safe right here. There's no shriekers nearby. Okay, yeah, I lied. This first section of Deep Dark, not much to brag about, but it was good practice. Well, after all that preparation, this is the only part of the Deep Dark that I can find here, so this is not gonna suffice. So I went out in search of another Deep Dark biome. Ooh, okay, this area looks pretty promising. Let's see what we have here. Just kidding, it's nothing. Holy, this cave is so cool, but I'm not seeing any skulk, which is really unfortunate. Oh, hang on. This looks promising. Yo, what the heck? There's a field down here. There's a crop field in this cave. What is going on? What is this? I wonder what they're growing down here to keep it so secret. Not today. We're not doing this today, mister. But once again, no luck. Ooh, this looks promising, actually. Hang on. And somehow, yet again, there's nothing here. Oh my god, this is the biggest cave I've ever seen, though. So I kept on searching. At this point, I was over 5,000 blocks from spawn. Oh my god, we're here. We found it. We have found it. I found the deep dark. This looks big, too. It looks actually promising this time. Dude, what the heck? Is this like some kind of sick joke? This is another dud biome. There's nothing here. At this point, I realized that finding the deep dark and finding an ancient city are two very different things. I spent hours continuing to search where I found something way more rare than an ancient city. What do we have here? Yo, this is what? Double zombie spawner. Holy cow, this is actually super rare. I have never seen this before in my life. I mean, I'll definitely never use that, but it was still a cool find. But not as cool as my next find. Oh, pillager outpost. These are actually kind of important now. Oh my god. Look what we have. We actually have some here. Oh my god, we have some allays here. Yes, you guys, this is so big. We're definitely going to be back here in the future. And 2 more over here. And 2 more. What the? There's 8 of them. 8 allays in this single pillager outpost. That's actually wild, I feel like. So yeah, let me know what to do with those allays because I literally have no idea. But finally, my friends, after 2.5 hours of searching, getting rickrolled yet again by an empty deep dark, I found what I was looking for tucked away inside of this mountain. All right, folks, this is what you call low erosion terrain. There has to be something here. I will not take no for an answer. There's gonna be a deep dark through here. Oh, I think I found the mother lode. I have found the absolute mother lode. There is an ancient city. And now I get to loot this thing. Oh, I'm scared. Why did I even do this? Whose idea was this? Oh my god, I'm so scared. Okay, now let's talk strategy. Now that we have finally found the ancient city, our next plan is to go through and as carefully as possible, very carefully, I want to remove all of the skulk shriekers in the area to basically make this thing peaceful. That is not going to be easy, and I'm probably going to spawn the warden, and he's probably going to chase me. So without further ado, here we go. So I think my best plan of attack is going to be to go around the outside of this thing first and like do a big ring and then circle my way in until eventually it's all conquered. All right, there's the first chest officially looted. So yes, if we cover the chest in wool, we can actually open it without any repercussions, which is very nice. Ooh, Swift Sneak. Yes, this is good. This is very good. I need to get 1 more Swift Sneak 2 book, and I can put that on my pants here. Okay, the first 2 shriekers of this ancient city. No big deal, though. We know how to handle these things. I'm not worried. Are you worried? You better not be worried. Hey, easy peasy, baby. Oh my god. What is this chest, dude? I love this so much. Besides the fact that I felt like I was going to vomit, I was getting more comfortable in this ancient city. Ooh, oh my god, there's mob heads here? What? This is actually crazy. So spooky, man. And after finding a Swift Sneak 3 book and putting it on my pants, I felt pretty invincible, which is not good. You don't want to be invincible down here. What are you doing down here? No, stay away. You're gonna get me killed. You're gonna get both of us killed. But yeah, don't worry. The confidence very quickly wore off. I did a bad thing. I think we're okay. Oh my god. So that was bad. I did it again. I did it again. Why did I do it again? Stop it. You're gonna get me killed. Bad. Stop it. Bad. Okay, so the outer ring is officially safeguarded. Now I want to go ahead and start working my way in a little bit. Oh no. Warden draws close. Is he here? At this point, I was 1 wrong noise away from disaster, so I just kind of said screw it and decided to summon the warden myself and see what would happen. You know what? Screw it. Let's go ahead and see what happens if I fly near 1 more. That's it. That's it. He's here. He's here. He's here. Where's he at? I can't see. I can't see. I'm not fighting him. I'm not doing that. No, 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 no. There he is. Oh my god, there he is. Oh, he's actually leaving. He's leaving. Okay, this is good. I'm gonna pass on that. At this point, I was just left to disarm this big center portal. Now, we've all had our speculations about what this thing actually does, what it will do, and honestly, I have no idea. But after disabling the shriekers around it, I found something pretty interesting below it. Hold up. What the heck's in here? Oh yeah, this is like those redstone testing areas. I feel like I should just come here and actually learn how to do redstone like an adult human being. That sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? And with that, all of the shriekers had been removed from this ancient city, which meant I could fly around and make as much noise as I wanted to without any consequences. I think this right here is actually the final shrieker. It's not even in the ancient city. The ancient city is like way over there, but I feel like I almost want to leave this. I don't know, what are the odds we're gonna actually want to spawn the warden here? Maybe we'll leave this just in case, but as far as I'm concerned, that was a very successful endeavor. Alright gamers, let's talk about a game plan. Step 1, I want to transform this ancient city. Particularly, I want to focus on the center portal area. I think there's a lot that we can do there. Step number 2, I want to move into said ancient city and claim it as my own. Step number 3, I want to disrespect the warden. And step number 4, I can't tell you that one, but it's going to be cool, so make sure you watch until the end. First things first, I'm going to need a lot of materials, starting with some skulk. And next, I'll need a whole bunch of warped wood. You know, while I'm here, I might as well grab the shroom lights too. I'll definitely need those. Yo, what the? Goodness, my guy. And then we'll grab some end stone. And now it's time for the long flight back to the ancient city. First, I want to address this center portal. I think it's supposed to look like the warden, but I don't know, to me, I just get like big Teletubby vibes from this, and that's not cool. So naturally, let's go ahead and remove this. If you ask me, the portal area is just a little bit underwhelming in its size, so I think there was an opportunity to make it bigger. The first thing that I wanted to do was build up these giant basalt pillars on each of the 4 corners surrounding the portal. I kind of like to imagine that this portal is the centerpiece for all of the skulk that is spreading throughout the deep dark here, so I want to go ahead and expand and just make this area super skulky, way more than it already is. Skulky? Is that even a word? Okay, so just the first half of the outline is complete, and right away, this is already looking way cooler, way more dark and deep and skulky. This is really cool. Now I want to go through and actually extend what I imagine this portal would look like if I could. Obviously, I can't get this deep slate block thing, but I do feel like a mix of end stone and these deep slate bricks is gonna do just fine. Also, building with Swift Sneak is honestly so much fun. I love this. Oh, I'm not good at it though. And then finally, to really go ahead and sell the illusion, we'll go ahead through and collect a bunch of these skulk veins. Ooh, more free diamonds, nice. But with the portal frame extended out over here, we can go ahead and continue on with the outline on this side. And with this skulk wireframe fully complete, I could start filling it in. I wanted this to look pretty organic. The only real goal here was to make it look like this was the center point of all of the skulk that is spreading throughout the deep dark. And I'm gonna be honest, I was getting a little bit nervous during this part of the build because the whole thing was just really weird and honestly out of my comfort zone. Also, way more skulk than I thought I needed. I had to go get like 10 times more than I actually thought. But as I got more of it built, I became more confident with the design and actually started to like what I was seeing. And from here, I want to accent this skulk with some warped wood. I think that it'll look really good to help fill in this little gap here. After going through and doing the same thing on the other side, I went ahead and added in the detail of some warped wood spread throughout the skulk. Not only did this break up the color palette, but it added this dynamic effect that looked like the skulk was pulsating at you, like it was alive. It looked so cool. Oh yeah, dude, this looks so sick. I actually can't wait to move in here. This is gonna be so cool. Can you believe like a week ago I was scared of this place? That's old news, man. I'm a new man. I'm a new boy. But of course, I wasn't done building yet. Right now, the front faces were complete, but the sides were totally hollow, and I wanted to build these up with a bunch of deep slate as if there once was a massive structure here. I guess the idea was that the structure itself was here before the skulk overtook everything. Does that make sense? Anyways, once the actual wall was built up, I took some inspiration from my slime farm build and cut out some pockets of random shape and then filled them in with skulk. And honestly, I am so in love with this. I love deep slate, dude. It's literally a cheat code when you build with it. It's so easy. With the outside of the structure fully transformed, it was time to tackle the interior. And this is where I get a little bit nervous because my interior decoration skills are that of a 4-year-old. So I took things slow, took the night off, and then did a little bit of planning so the next day I could come back and set off to get some materials. Oh, and it's snowing. How lovely. You know, while I'm out here, might as well go ahead and snag this bell. We're gonna need that for something a bit later in the video. Don't worry, you'll see. I found it. Oh my god, Dark Oak Forest. Goodness, this took so long to find. Way too long to find. They shouldn't be this hard anymore to find. What the heck, dude? sheep, I'm sorry, but I have to repair my wings. This is not personal. Okay, maybe a little bit. With the materials gathered, it was now time for phase 2 to move into this ancient city. Keeping things pretty simple, I figured I would keep the center portal area totally empty so as to preserve its significance, and then build out the base on either of the sides. Starting things off with a fun archway design that leads into a staircase down below, I kept the block palette consistent with what I already had, with different wood types, end stone, and the occasional bit of warped wood. I decided that the first side of the interior would be used for the storage to hold all of the loot I got while going through this ancient city. And after that, moving along to the opposite side, I kept things the exact same, except this time building up a large nether portal and covering most of it with overgrown skulk. And that's basically it for the interior. I mean, I'm a simple man, I don't plan on living here forever, so I don't need all too much. So if you ask me, this base is looking really good, but I think we can all agree this place still needs a cool entrance. So let's go ahead and like find a way in here from this bottom side. Yeah, I think something like this looks really cool. So I got to work digging, clearing out a tunnel that stretched from the entrance I just made all the way around to the drop chute I made inside of the base. And from there, it was time to decorate. Hey, and there we go, my friends. The entrance is officially done. This is so cool. I love how easily you can get into this place now. But getting out of here, yeah, that's a different story. And that's where this hole comes in. Now it's time for phase 3, to disrespect the warden. I want to absolutely rickroll this man, okay? He's going to be so bamboozled. Yeah, I'm just going to make a lot of noise, basically. But luckily for me, it's really easy to design a machine that automatically rings a bell and a timer. Shout out to my friend Farzi for this idea. It's going to work perfect down here. And finally, it's time for phase 4, where I plan to spawn in a warden and trap him below my base here. Yeah, that's right, gamers. I'm going to hold the warden captive inside of his own house. In case you forgot, while looting the ancient city, I left one single shrieker, which I will now use to summon the warden. First thing to do was to spawn proof the entire area around the shrieker with carpet and then build up a spawn platform above it. This forces the warden to spawn inside of the platform instead of inside me, pretty much. And this idea was inspired from Ilmango's warden farm tutorial. And from there, I began building up a water elevator where I would lure the warden into it and send it off to my base. And finally, the last thing to do was to extend the water pathway all the way over to the base. Alright guys, I think it's time that we try and spawn in this warden. I'm actually super scared right now, so the first thing we need to do, and basically the only thing we need to do, is go ahead here and remove the wool around this shrieker. Okay, we'll cover this area with carpet just to make sure the warden can't spawn there. And then basically we have to hop on the shrieker and put an observer there. That is it. That's all I have to do, and I'm not stalling. I'm not stalling. Why do you think that I'm stalling? All right, here we go. Okay, warden approaches. That's level 1. Okay, there's level 2. There's level 3. Oh god, oh god, oh god. I'm so scared. He's spawning. Yes, this is right. He's spawning above me. I don't know if this is working. Okay, so that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Okay, the warden can definitely see me right now. Oh, he's here. He's here. He's here. He's here. He's here. He's here. If all goes to plan, there will be a warden in this hole in about a minute. Oh, we did it. We did it. Yeah, I think the warden's in our base. We trapped the warden. I also can't see, but he's trapped, and that's the important thing. That's what you clicked here. Okay. Okay, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Okay, so yeah, maybe I just don't mess with this guy. How's that sound? I have a problem. My Minecraft world looks exactly the same as it did 4 months ago, because I decided to build everything underground. But that wasn't really the best idea, kind of like me quitting my big boy job last February to make Minecraft videos when I had 251 subscribers. Yeah, that actually happened. But this problem is not financial insecurity or anxiety. This is far worse, and it has to do with Deep Slate. You see, Haste 2 has been the only thing holding me together while digging out this underground mega base. But but I'm about to start getting into deep slate territory, which means I can taste haze 2 as well as my livelihood goodbye. Or I could just use a bunch of TNT. So today, let's solve that problem and make a creeper farm. But not just any old creeper farm. I have 2 goals. I want this farm to be a part of my base, and I want it to be looting 3 base. I spent some time searching around to find where I wanted to actually build this farm, and from there, the first step was to dig a really large hole. And would you look at that, I've already busted into a cave system. You see, mob spawning increases the lower into the world you go, and even more so if those spawn platforms are exposed to the surface. Basically, this is the same idea that I used in my slime farm build a few episodes ago. Things were going great until I ran into a roadblock. Oh my god, no. There's a flooded cave? Why is there a flooded cave below me? Oh my god. This is not ideal. Now, I could go raid some ocean monuments, but honestly, I'm far too lazy and I don't feel like popping another totem this episode. That'd be 3 in a row, so I guess we'll just fill this in by hand. So I got to work, removing a layer, filling in a layer, removing a layer, filling in a layer. Honestly, it wasn't all that bad once I got going. And with the water taken care of, it's time to get back to digging. Oh, just kidding, there's a cave here. Ah, a bunch of sneaky guys up here. Not on my watch. Okay, now I can get back to digging. Alright my friends, I am on level 60 and I can't believe how big this hole is. I still have way more to dig too. While I was digging, I took any opportunity I could to go ahead and light up nearby caves. It definitely slowed me down, but I knew it would save me time in the long run because I would have to do this anyways if I wanted to have good raids on the creeper farm. Ooh, random waterfall. God, I always gotta go in these things and see where they lead. Do you guys do this too, or is it just like a me problem? Oh, okay, it goes nowhere. Well, that was an unplanned 2-hour caving session, but yeah, I better get back to digging. There's Y level 40, and level 20, and finally level 10. At this point, I was getting into the deep slate level, which meant clearing out this massive hole just got a whole lot harder. So I took a trip out to my old mob farm to AFK for a bit while I went for a bike ride, made some dinner, and also prayed to death that my cats didn't mess with my game while I was gone. And almost 2 full shulker boxes later, all I need is a lot of sand. Over 10 stacks. Now that might just take us home. Oh my god, this hole is absolutely massive. What in the heck? Now I think we already know the drill here. Alright, let's go ahead and test this out, see if it works. I'm on fire. Using the same TNT placement I used in my slime farm video, I was able to go ahead and pretty efficiently start blowing up this chunk. Now because this area was a little bit smaller and the way the numbers worked out, I couldn't quite blow everything up to the edge, so I had to do some extra mining. Well, I might regret this. Gonna point that out right now. This might be a bad idea. Oh my lord, I've released the army. Dude, what? There are so many of these things. Goodness. Eventually though, I found a TNT configuration that allowed me to explode things pretty efficiently, albeit a little bit dangerous. Oh, not good. We're fine. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. And finally, my friends, after honestly less than an hour and way less TNT than I thought I would need, we have made it to the bedrock. After filling in a couple of layers at the bottom to give myself space to work, it was time to start preparing things for this farm. I started things off by fishing in this questionable and probably illegal pond. Don't tell anybody though. From there, I set off, fish in hand, to find some cats. I remembered finding a cat in the museum area a few episodes back, but they must have died, so I flew off to find some villages. The first village had nothing. Same with the second village. village. This one was on water though, so I should have known better than to think a cat would be here. After finding more allays, as well as the ruined portal with 2 golden apples, I wandered to the 3rd village, which, you guessed it, had nothing. The 4th village I stopped at was previously decimated from the raid I did a while back. I mean, there were barely any villagers here, but I did find this random cookie on the ground. Seriously though, does anyone know why the heck this was even here? Anyways, after making my way to the 5th village, I finally found some cats. And they were cute cats, 2 of which actually looked like my cats in real life. I tamed 3 of them and headed home. And when I got home, I attempted to lure them into my large hole, but I forgot that orange cats don't actually have brain cells. So instead, I just let this one sit in the grassy area. The key is to make them think they're helping. Luckily for me though, the other 2 just yeeted themselves right into the hole with me, and that's how I knew they were ride or die. And after spending the next 45 minutes breeding them up, I was ready to continue with the farm. And now I want to get started on the actual spawn platforms, but first I need a lot of materials, mainly a bunch of stone bricks, and then a bunch of trap doors. I will use the tree farm for these because I am lazy. Firstly, the ceiling of each of these spawn platforms is covered in trap doors. This makes it so skeletons and zombies can't spawn. Next, it was time to go through with carpets and a configuration that blocks spiders from spawning, which is pretty straightforward. You see, they need a 3x3 area to be able to spawn. Now, the spawn platform design itself is by Logical Geek Boy. I mean, it's pretty much the most straightforward and efficient design out there. There's no real reason to build anything else. And I wanted this farm to produce a lot of creepers when it was finished. And I knew to do that, I would need quite a few spawn layers. I kept building up layer by layer until I had 15 of them, and I figured that would be more than enough for what I would need. There we go, 15 layers have been built on this creeper farm. And now it's time to dig out these openings on each side, which is where the creepers will actually walk off the edge. Alright, with each of the sides fully dug out, I think the next thing to do is go ahead and get these cats in place, because honestly, they are just driving me crazy. Getting the first cat in place was pretty easy, but moving the other 14 was quite difficult. You see, when cats teleport vertically, it isn't the most accurate, so it was basically a shot in the dark for where they would end up, which was fine at first, but eventually I had to start digging long tunnels so the cats would teleport to the correct layer. But finally, after about 45 minutes of scrambling, the cats were all in place. And with the cats finally in place, I just have to go through and put some trapdoors on each side. Technically, I could remove the torches and add a kill chamber below the farm, and I would have easy access to gunpowder now, but that's boring. Instead, I want to collect creepers at a single place and use looting 3 to kill them because that is just way more fun. I also want to change things up and build on the surface for a change. I'm imagining making a giant castle on the hill that I shoot the creepers out of. Now, let it be known that I have never built anything resembling a castle in my life, therefore I was terrified. Luckily for me, my friend Blockdown messaged me on Twitter to reach out and help, and told me that his biggest tip was to not make the castle too large when starting out. Looking to Pinterest for some inspiration, I spent a good few hours just looking at castles that I like so I could use them to help me build. In the end, I was between 2 different concepts, and after completely ignoring all of Blockdown's advice about scale and failing miserably at designing the first castle, I scaled things down a little bit and made a design that I'm super proud of. But what good is a castle design without the materials to build it? Luckily for me, I used a mod called Lightmatica, which gave me accurate counts of how much of each thing I needed. I spent the next 3 hours collecting loads of things to build this castle, including deep slate, spruce wood, green wool, green concrete, and so much more. With the materials all collected, I had to determine where to actually build the castle. And you see, the placement here actually mattered a lot, because I wanted to bring the creepers up into the castle and then funnel them along a water stream and then shoot them out the front back into the hole. To start things off, I began laying out a large flat area with dirt that the castle would sit upon. It did look pretty weird right now, but I'll fix that part later. The next task was going through with stone and building up the hillside to meet the large flat area. With the bulk of it built up, I went back through with more stone to add a more natural shape to the cliffside, and finally, after blending in the landscape with more grass, mossy cobblestone, and leaves, I was quite happy with how things turned out. But enough rambling, let's build this castle. Well, you guys, I tell you what, it isn't much. I've seen better, but oh my god, I am actually so in love with this thing. Like, just walking around down here and seeing the view, it actually made me tear up a minute ago. I was actually like crying a little bit. I'm so proud of myself, honestly. But now I want to go ahead and continue the build and actually build a sort of creeper graveyard thing out front here. I think that'll look really good. Going through, I added in some custom gravestones around the hole and then blended the whole thing into the terrain. And with the castle and the graveyard complete and looking mighty fine, I might add, it's time to finish up the actual creeper farm, because that is the whole point of this video, believe it or not. Now, I want to funnel the creepers up into the castle and then shoot them out of the top. I think we'll go ahead and dig down right here and right here. That should be good. From there, I began working on the redstone contraption to launch the creepers out into the hole. Now, this was inspired by an old Tango Tech build. And after that, I built up the water streams on both sides to funnel the creepers into the middle. Doing the math to figure out which Y level I needed to stand at, I began building up a large platform of slabs to collect the creepers from above and funnel them to one singular location. And finally, my friends, after many hours of planning, it was time to turn on the farm. Going through layer by layer, I removed the torches, and from there, I just had to wait and see what spawned. Yeah, just kidding, it sucked. I think in the 10 minutes that I sat here, I had no more than a single creeper make its way down to me. The good news was that the farm worked. The bad news was that it worked very poorly. The reality was that I still had tons of work to do before this farm would actually work at a reasonable rate. So yeah, the creeper farm, it really sucks. But luckily, it doesn't have to. First thing to do, I want to add another side, a third side for the creepers to jump off of the edge. I think they're getting caught up in here a little bit. Which, of course, will require a lot more trapdoors. Next, to add some more trapdoors along the bottom layers, because the creepers from the top layers were falling and then taking fall damage on the trapdoors and dying. I should have just followed the tutorial better. I spent the next while adding the finishing touches to the farm, including the third waterway, as well as moving the cats out of the minecart because it seemed like the creepers were having a hard time seeing them. I also went through and made some changes to the killing chamber. Despite the rates improving a little bit, I realized that the creepers were actually getting jammed up in the castle and occasionally despawning, which was not good. So instead, I left one of the water tunnels connected up to the castle, but rerouted the other two tunnels to output right near the kill chamber, which would drastically improve the rates, but still give me the satisfaction of shooting creepers out of my castle, because that's really important to me right now. Even though the farm was finally complete, I still had to do the most important step. You see, so many caves surrounding the farm were unlit, meaning mobs were spawning there instead of inside of my creeper farm. So going ahead and using a mod called Mini HUD, I set a sphere of 128 blocks around the AFK spot and then started lighting up caves. The numbers that you see on the ground tell me what the light level is, so if it's red, that basically means I need to put a torch there. As per usual, if me using this mod bothers you, I don't care. After a full hour of caving, I stopped back at the creeper farm to find it basically non-functional, which basically meant that I still had a lot of work to do. So back into the caves I went. Believe it or not, the hardest part was actually finding caves to light up. Even though there are caves basically everywhere underground now, I had to get as many of them lit up as possible. Even a couple dark spots could render this farm nearly useless. I also went through and lit up the surface so I could use this farm at nighttime as well. It felt like no matter what I did, there was another dark cave to be lit around the corner. But finally, after nearly 3 straight hours in the caves, I started to see some pretty insane rates back at the creeper farm. And there you go, my friends. This project project was a ton of fun, and honestly, I totally overcomplicated the whole thing, but I guess that's kind of the point. But hey, at least I have gunpowder now. I am a sad boy. I live near a beautiful mountain range, and despite nearing day 1200 in this hardcore adventure, I have hardly even built on the surface past episode 1 when I transformed this village. Now don't get me wrong, I love the underground mega base that I've built. It's massive, immersive, and the best part is I never have to go outside, just like in real life. But I'm challenging myself to make this area as beautiful as possible, starting today, where I will transform part of this mountain range into a massive farming village. So the first thing to do is figure out where I want to actually start building. Now don't get me wrong, this side of the mountain is pretty beautiful. However, this side is way cooler if you ask me. This is so beautiful and I'm so excited to build here this episode. Now I suppose I could just start building here, but that'd be kind of boring. Instead, I was thinking we could go ahead and actually start digging a really long tunnel from one side of the mountain into the other. But first I should probably repair my pickaxe. There we go, all better. There we go, my friends, I have busted through to the other side. Now, ideally, this tunnel would be a little bit less crammed, and taller, and more decorated. Going through here, I began clearing space in the ceiling because I wanted this tunnel to expand upwards, but not downwards, really. And now we spam a bunch of TNT. Oh my god, I've made a mob farm. I would call that semi-successful. As easy as using the TNT made things, I was now left with a pretty rugged looking tunnel that still needed a lot of fixing. I spent the next full hour going through filling in holes and carving away to try and shape the terrain to my liking. And with the tunnel mostly dug out, it is time to decorate. I wanted to design a simple entrance on each side of the tunnel that blended nicely into the mountain, and from there it was time to start decorating the interior. Now I could have gone really crazy here with detail, but instead I opted to keep things simple with the occasional spruce support beam with hanging lanterns to keep things lit up. I figured this was a better way to go about it, especially because the only time I'm going to be here is when I'm traveling from point A to point B. From there it was just a matter of replacing the floor with some grass so I could keep the same pathway design, and after connecting the tunnel up to the main base with yet another path, it was pretty much complete. And that means that we can finally start building on this side of the mountain. But I need materials first. I want to use the blocks from the new mangrove swamp over in these builds. And in a 6,000 block radius from my spawn, I have still not found a single one. So with that said, I think the best plan of attack is going to be go really far in the nether and see where we end up. And I've done very little nether exploring since building this massive nether hub. Honestly, I think the best bet is just going to be to get up on the roof. Going through, I found a piece of bedrock that was at Y level 127, which meant that I could bust through it. All right, my friends, we'll place some ladders in here. We'll go to the top corner, throw an ender pearl and jump, and there we go. We should be back on the nether roof. Now in theory, this should be the square above our nether portals. I figured to make things easier, I should go ahead and just bust through now. I may regret this. This may be a bad idea. After going to YouTube and reminding myself on how to break bedrock, I got to work setting up the obsidian and TNT explosion chambers that theoretically just remove this stuff. I severely underestimated how not fun breaking bedrock would be. Like, I think I would rather just do chores in real life over doing this again if I had to pick. It's so tedious. Anyways, after a full hour of work, I was finally starting to get into the groove, and then I blew up my TNT shulker box and lost about 6 full stacks, so that was a nice setback, but that's okay. After a quick stop to the creeper farm, I was ready to keep exploding. I'm gonna put this down a bit further away this time. That's probably a good idea, right? Hey, there we go, my friends. I can finally see down into the nether hub. Believe it or not, it took me 6 hours to remove all of this bedrock. I didn't expect to do this today. Why am I like this? Well, my friends, I hope that this was worth it. If you ask me, it looks pretty dang cool. Honestly, I'm proud I did this. But now it is time to venture out to unknown territory. We need to find a mangrove swamp. Along the way, I wanted to make a pit stop over at the Wither Skeleton farm, which I have not been to in quite a while. I wanted to get some more bone blocks for my build this episode. There we go, that should be enough. So I went on, continuing my journey until I was about 5,000 blocks out in the nether. Well, I hope that this leads somewhere cool. And it actually appears as if I have surfaced right into a swamp, but hopefully this extends into the mangrove swamp because I don't really care about these swamps anymore. Okay, there's a jungle here. That's good news. The mangrove swamps typically are near jungles, so I've heard. Yeah, there we go. Adventuring time. I actually didn't know that was the last biome I needed. That is very exciting. I'm so glad to be here. Oh man, I really love the vibe you get in here. It's such an immersive feeling. And with a full shulker box of materials, I set off back home. This is not good. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, I just almost died. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Stay out of my hardcore world. You are not welcome here. And on that note, let's do some building. Building near the mountain will require lots of terraforming. So first things first, let's go ahead and find a new spot to collect mass amounts of dirt. Where did you come from? What? Oh my god, he's a magician. And one full shulker box later, that should be at least enough to get us started. Maybe. Hopefully? Going through here, I want to create a large flat area that I can build a farmhouse on top of. Well, to be honest with you guys, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm just kind of putting down blocks and let's see how they work out here. Okay, yeah, I lied. One shulker box of dirt was definitely not even close to enough. Oh, no way, there's a pink sheep pretty close to my base. And now we can get back to work. Learning to terraform better is high on my priority list while learning how to build, though it took me quite a while to get the actual shape of this hill how I wanted. But in the end, after over 2 full hours of work, I was quite happy with what I built, especially when compared to what I had when I started. And now it's time to collect some materials. I spent the next 2 hours collecting materials for this build, including mangrove wood, dark oak wood, deep slate, and so much more. And with that, my friends, I think we have everything we need to begin building. And then I remembered that I really don't know how to build. So I spent the next couple of days browsing Pinterest for some inspiration and also stumbled onto this building tips video from Blue Nerd. And I'm not kidding you guys, I learned so much just from building a couple of the designs from this video that I decided to just go for it and try designing a build of my own. redstone. And after a little bit of trial and error, I am super happy with how this build turned out. I spent the next morning trying to work out the details of the interior of this farmhouse, and as it turns out, I don't know what I'm doing with interiors. I probably should have figured that one out earlier. So after spending a while designing just the general layout of the floor plan, I set off to find all of the tall flower types. I figured the exterior decoration would be more of my strong suit. There's the sunflowers, the lilacs, the rose bushes, and finally the peonies. Going through here on the exterior, I want to smoothen out the terrain so the house better fits into the area. From there, I got to work on a back entrance to the house, as well as a fenced-off area near the other side. I also took some time to add some shrubbery around the house, including these flower gardens, as well as a small crop field to add a bit more life. But to really make this area come to life, I needed to work on pathways. With the pathways built, I now had a better idea of where the empty space was around my build. So I began outlining what eventually would be crop fields with mangrove roots, which, if you ask me, look really nice. The next phase of the project required a lot of digging. So after setting up a temporary haze tube beacon in the area, I began clearing out some space. I want to incorporate a bunch of the new blocks into this build. Having already used mangrove wood on this house, the next thing I want to use is mud. Specifically, the mud bricks. I think they look really cool. So luckily for us though, I think Mojang made crafting the mud bricks really easy. As far as I'm concerned, you pretty much just put 4 mud in the crafting table. Dumb jokes aside, crafting mud bricks first requires you to craft packed mud, and that requires you to combine mud with wheat. But my only source of wheat comes from these wheat fields, and I am far too lazy to harvest these manually. The first layer is complete. I think I want to go ahead and have at least 4 more of these. There's the second layer complete. There's the third layer. Layer number 4, and finally layer number 5. Now I needed to find a way to populate this farm with villagers. Now it is true that I do have a villager breeder back at the main base, but that's kind of far away. I think it'll be faster to instead try and borrow some villagers from over here. Come on, buddy, come with me. Here we go. Homie, where could you possibly be going right now? Where are you going, dude? There we go. We got 1 villager. Now I got to do this all again. Somehow I am managing to lure 3 farmers away from the village. This is actually so not planned, but honestly, I will take it. I'm not going to complain about this. Well, it didn't work. They all ran away. Okay, well, I managed to get 2 more villagers in here, which means I only need to breed them twice. And in the end, I figured it would just be faster to go back to the village and get 2 more. Oh my god, we gotta help this guy. Dude, what are you doing, buddy? Come here, buddy. How about we don't jump off this ledge, huh? How does that sound? Okay, there's 4 villagers. I just need 1 more. And there we go, my friends. Here is the last villager. Each villager can hold 8 stacks of items. So going through, I gave them all seeds until their inventory was full, meaning any wheat that they harvested would stay on the ground. From there, I went through finishing up the redstone mechanism, which triggers a series of note blocks to sound about every 30 seconds. Ultimately, these note blocks are there to keep the allays occupied, which, speaking of allays, I should probably go and get those. So I set off to the nearest pillager outpost to find some of these new companions. Alright, looks like we got a couple of them over here. I need to get 5 of them, but these 2 should be a good start. Come on, you guys. This is, quite frankly, very embarrassing. With the wheat farm at least semi-functional now, it was time to tackle the next thing I needed for mud bricks, which is actual mud. Now I could just make regular trips out to the mangrove swamp and get mass amounts of mud that way, but that's kind of boring and it also destroys the terrain. Luckily for me, it's actually pretty easy to generate mud yourself, and that means that you can get it in infinite supply. I want to build some sort of mud factory mechanism thing over here, so that means I need to do a lot of terraforming. I cleared out a large flat section into the terrain for the building itself, but first I had to actually build the mud farm. I found a really simple design by Jax the Legend, but I just tweaked it to collect the mud into 3 layers instead of 1. I wanted to design the building itself using mud bricks, but to get those I had to actually collect the mud from the farm to get the mud bricks for the building. There we go, and when the mud reaches all the way up to this corner, the machine is basically full, then I just go through here and collect mud. It's that simple. After spending some time gathering spruce, mangrove, and other materials, I got to work building up the mud factory, which is honestly one of my favorite builds in the world so far. It's so simple, but I think the color palette just works so well. I was nearing 20 hours into this project, and despite a bunch of terraforming and 2 full buildings, the area was still lacking a lot of detail, which was honestly kind of discouraging. But after a full night's rest, I got up the next morning and made it my goal to add as much life to this area as possible. Starting with the area around the farm, I laid out a spruce staircase that would connect it up to the main pathway, and then blended it into the terrain with some tough and mossy cobblestone. The goal here was to make it go from a series of seemingly separate builds to then connect them into one cohesive thing. Naturally, I continued the path along the sides of the mud factory, and then got to work filling in these empty spaces with a bunch of actual mud, which, go figure, works quite well in this scenario. I still felt like the mud factory needed to be more established into the terrain, so I went through and built up a retaining wall out of stripped spruce, which definitely looked a lot better and made the whole area kind of pop. But the last time that I checked, farming villages actually need area to farm. So now I wanted to begin laying out a series of crop fields. Because the terrain was so hilly, I decided it would be best to flatten out multiple flat segments at differing elevations and then go through with a series of retaining walls, sort of like the old school terraces that people used to make. For the actual terrace design, I kept it pretty similar to what I've been using, but outlined the top in mangrove roots, which add a nice aesthetic and some variation. Finally happy with the design, I got to work on the second flat segment, and finally the third, which had a slightly different and more rounded shape. I also noticed here a perfect opportunity to make a staircase leading up to the mud factory, which just helps tie the area together. After taking some time to gather a bunch more mangrove roots, I began laying out a 4th segment as well as a 5th large segment that wrapped all the way around behind the farmhouse. Taking some inspiration from earlier, I started to connect this area up to the pathway on the other side. I learned that all of these different pathways not only add variation in elevation, but a ton of immersion when walking around the area. And finally, thanks to all of the different terraces, this area was starting to look much larger and way more put together. I still, however, needed to actually plant the fields, which was kind of a pretty important step and would help things out way more. I don't know about you guys, but I am quite happy with how this is looking so far. It's actually crazy to think where this mountain range started this episode and then where it's at right now. But I still have lots of work to do. I want to go ahead now and actually start filling in these fields with various different crops. It's going to look really cool. Making some pit stops over at my automatic farms, I was able to fully stockpile carrots and potatoes. Okay, there's the potato field in place. Next up, I want to go ahead and make a carrot farm on this lower level here. So with the potato and the carrot field complete, I now want to actually go ahead and make this bottom field a massive beetroot field. Beetroot doesn't get enough love. I mean, sure, it sucks, but it looks really nice. The beetroot field is in and looking pretty good, I might add. It'll look better when it's actually grown in. And now I want to go through and make this field, I think, into a wheat field. I don't really have one of those yet over here. There we go. Now I just have this little guy over here. I think we'll go ahead and actually go with a carrot field because that's my favorite. I'm a little bit biased. There's still a lot more work to do. But first, crop growing montage. I spent the next couple of hours dotting in pieces of detail wherever I felt needed. This usually consisted of filling in grassy patches with flower fields, building up rocky segments to break up the terrain, or even just working on the pathways some more. I severely underestimated how long detailing like this takes, but I'm glad I stuck with it. And right there, at just over 30 hours spent on this project, was where I initially planned on just ending the video. I was so sure of it that I even sent a tweet out saying that I was done recording or something like that. But for some reason, I just had this nagging thought that there was still more to do. Maybe I was right, maybe I just need therapy, maybe both. But either way, I thought the area wasn't big enough yet, so I began terraforming a flat area near the bottom of the farming section. Bringing yet another path through the area, I began planting a gigantic wheat field. I even freestyled this bridge across the ravine, which I'm super proud of, before carrying the path and the wheat field across to the other side. But as I kept expanding, the terrain kept speaking to me, so I thought next I would test out my building skills and absolutely freestyle another farmhouse over here. Turns out, yeah, building is still pretty hard for me, but I'm very proud of how this came out, especially having not done any planning whatsoever on it. I took things another step further and started building up this mineshaft entrance into the side of the mountain here, and finally went through connecting up pathways and adding details around the new builds. Going through with one final massive carrot field to cover even more area with farmland, this project was finally starting to feel more massive and complete. And while the last field was growing in, I had the idea for one final build to really seal the deal. I noticed there was a very large empty space between the mountain entrance and the farmhouse, so after a little bit of time designing, I started building up a massive tower to overlook the land. And that, my friends, is a project completed. Also, interiors suck, so I'm boycotting them. Bye! There are many different types of holes. Little holes, big holes, donut holes, the 2003 Disney classic, the one I left in your heart by not uploading for a month, or this one, which I made in my hardcore world. But why? Well, besides the fact that I can't seem to pick a sustainable project in Minecraft, this hole marks the start of my biggest project ever. Here are the goals. Step 1, make the largest hole possible. Step 2, build every important farm inside of that hole. And then step 3, build an entire civilization inside of the hole. Oh, this is gonna take hundreds of hours. Oxford Dictionary defines a witch as an edible North Atlantic flatfish that is of some commercial value. And I don't know what that means, but what I do know is that in Minecraft, there are these things called witch huts. And in these huts, you can find a pretty cute black cat. Now you see, my cats in real life are gray, kind of gray and orange, but I'm a curious man and I've always secretly wanted a pet black cat. So the first thing to do today is find the witch hut and adopt a new kitten. Finding one of these witch huts should be easy, but it's not, kind of. You see, they spawn pretty regularly inside of swamp biomes, so you're probably thinking, oh, Brock, I'm so smart, why don't you just go to a swamp? But no, hey, no. You cut that out. You see, my hardcore world must have been created by Lord Farquaad himself, because I haven't seen a single swamp in a 4,000 block radius from my spawn. I set off searching. I found a forest, an ocean, another forest, a big cave, and then I killed these sheep. Why did I kill these sheep? It doesn't matter. It's a distraction. I was beginning to get worried. What if I can't find a swamp? And then the craziest thing happened. Yeah, I found one. There it was, the witch hut, aka the adoption center for my new pet. Immediately, I killed the original owner to possess full stake of the property, and there it was. I love you, I will make you mine. But he didn't love me. I guess he was just hungry though, because after feeding him a fish, he immediately became my best friend. Right away, I tested the intelligence of my friend by luring him towards lava and ensuring he could teleport like I read online. And then I moved him far away to a safe area, because what if I told you I was about to destroy his homeland? You see, the witches that spawn inside of these huts drop lots of useful items like sticks, glass, bottles, glowstone, spider eyes, gunpowder, potions, and most importantly, redstone. And if I can find a way to farm these witches, that will mean I'll have a renewable source of redstone, meaning I can build a ton of automatic farms without ever having to go mining again. Now, disclaimer, if you really want lots of redstone, then just go mining for like 2 hours and don't do what I do under any circumstances. But the problem with farming witches is that there are too many other dark places on the surface and in caves below spawning mobs. So that's where this massive hole comes from. If I can remove a 256 by 256 square centered around the hut, then I will be able to farm witches like it is my job. Literally. After outlining the perimeter, I had the devastating realization that I'm a dummy dum-dum. Blowing up this swamp is going to require insane amounts of TNT, which doesn't work in water. Normally that wouldn't be a big deal, but I chose the swamp with the most amount of water ever. So yes, for step number 2 in this project, I need to drain this entire swamp. You guys, I am excited to announce that I have officially started a second channel with even more Minecraft content. And my first long play is live right now. So whether you want to see more content from me, or hell, even if you're just tired of hearing my voice, I get it. Yeah, you should definitely go check that out. But I had a plan. So using a tool called Chunk-Based, I entered my seed to find the exact locations of 12 ocean monuments. If I'm lucky, each one of these should have at least one sponge room. So based on that, I'm hoping for about 6 stacks of sponges. Also, side note, I don't really care that you think this is cheating because I am an adult. But looting these monuments is a little bit dangerous. Each one is packed with 3 Elder Guardians who have a ton of health, make it so I can't mine, and also kind of look like that scary fish from Finding Nemo who gave me nightmares as an 8-year-old. So that sucks. Not to mention the entire place is filled with laser shooting guardians. I had to be fast. If I could get to the topmost point of the temple soon enough, I could bust through and kill the first Elder Guardian before the mining fatigue even set in. From there, I just had to search around like a lost child for the other 2 Elder Guardians until finally I could begin the real search for the sponge rooms. I found them pretty easily most of the time, so I was spending a lot of time just scrolling on Twitter, which, speaking of Twitter, you should follow me there. I saw a bunch of stupid things when I was looting these monuments. I mean, for instance, here there were 2 Elder Guardians inside of the ceiling. Or here, where there was a literal drowned ruin inside of the monument. I don't even know how this is possible. And speaking of stupid, after the 6th monument, I ran out of food and forgot more from home. So I had to kill these fish and loot around for a while. But then I found another god apple, so who's stupid now? Yeah, it's still me. I finished looting the remaining monuments and headed home. And in total, I found nearly 8 stacks of sponges, which was way more than I projected, and a massive W. Now, I use sand to section off parts of water because it's easy to gather and sinks, which makes it easy to place in a lot of. And then after sectioning off a little box, I just had to go back through spamming sponges until bam, the water was gone. Now, doing that just along the surface of the swamp was daunting enough as a task, but pair that with the fact that many of these sections opened up into massive water caves below meant that I was in way over my head. The only thing keeping me sane was the satisfaction of watching sand fall on my torches, but even that was getting a little bit old. A couple of hours later, with very little progress to show, the first day of this project was coming to an end. But I woke up with a new plan. A plan so big brain that its odds of success were minuscule. So earlier that morning, I found a design on YouTube for an automatic water removal machine and thought, hey, what the heck, I could use that for some of the deeper water sections. So I spent the first 2 hours of my day building this machine and prepping the area. It was go time. I turned it on and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was actually working. And then the craziest thing happened. No, not really. It just broke. I think it was just designed for an earlier version of Minecraft. That was sad. I got back to work by hand, testing out some less complex technology that kind of worked, kind of didn't work. But one thing was apparent at this point. The swamp will not drain itself. Literally, like I just tried that and it didn't work. By hour number 5, the surface was 25% drained, meaning that if I maintain this pace, I can expect it to take 20 hours to finish. That was unacceptable. I had to be faster. Back to work I got, and you know the drill. Sand, sponge, dry, cry. Sand, sponge, dry, cry. Say it with me. Sand, sponge, dry. Okay, I'm done. By the end of hour 8, I was over halfway done draining. And to celebrate, I removed all of the trees in the area to throw a massive party with all my friends. Nobody showed up. This is a single player world, world and I'm delusional. I cried myself to sleep to end day 2 of this project. Day 3, 10 hours into the swamp draining. I was 75% done. I could see the finish line, and by hour 12, the last of the sponges were placed in. Flying around to see all of the water gone in this swamp really helped set in just how large this project was. I still had a ton of work to do, but right now I was happier than Shrek himself. Alright, just a little update. So things are going pretty good over here. I've adopted a new pet, and I've also removed all of the water in this swamp. But this is just the beginning. Now it's time for phase 3, where I plan to blow up this entire area from the surface all the way down to bedrock. Yeah, I still don't really know how I'm going to do this. So when it comes to destroying this area, I have a couple of options. Firstly, and theoretically, I could mine it by hand, but we're talking something like 9 million blocks, so that's a no for me. No, I'm not doing that. Which leads me to TNT. I would need to craft TNT in the tens of thousands to do this manually. But my creeper farm is not cut out for that, and don't even get me started on how much sand that would be. Luckily, there's one better option. About a year ago, I made a video where I blew up the entire end island using a redstone machine that flies back and forth, duplicating TNT and causing mass destruction. With a similar idea in mind, I went to YouTube, where I found this video by Pixiels, which is like the perfect technical guide for destroying your Minecraft world. I didn't even know such a thing existed. I began collecting slime blocks, redstone, observers, pistons, coral fans. Why would I need coral fans? It didn't matter. The imposter syndrome was high today. I was a redstone man, and whether I liked it or not, I would be one for the next 30 hours. This machine is tileable, which is basically a fancy word for expandable, which is a fancy word for I can make it as big or as small as I want. At first I chose small. You see, my self-confidence in this moment was at an all-time low, so I wanted to minimize my embarrassment when I inevitably messed this up. Right now, I decided it would be best to cover the witch hut in a thick layer of obsidian before doing any exploding, just to make sure I didn't lose track of where it was. That would honestly be really embarrassing, but I wouldn't put it past me. And with that, my friends, we are ready to turn on the machine. So I've gone ahead here and just built one of these modules, which is going to blow up basically from here all the way over that way in a straight line. I want to make sure this actually works before I go too crazy here. But yeah, I think the last thing to do is just quite literally place a torch right here. And here we go. The machine is off. Don't get too close though. That would be bad. And the machine actually worked. Kind of. Oh, it didn't work though. Why is one of these not working? But after just one pass through, it was apparent that there was a whole new problem. Already, I had exposed a few pretty sizable water caves, which meant that my days of sponge draining were far from over. And if this was any indication of what the rest of the terrain would look like, then I had some serious work cut out for me. I spent the next full hour just removing all of the water before I could even run the machine again. After 45 minutes more of removing water and running the machine, I was left with a pretty sizable trench. And because this trench was basically flat, that just meant the TNT had reached its fall limit before exploding. This was just the beginning. Although this was kind of a turning point for me, because even though I had so much work to do still, I could now start to envision what this would look like when it was done. It was time to expand the machine. The next day, I AFK'd at my slime farm, but then it just stopped working, so that's pretty cool. I still didn't have enough slime balls, so I had to resort to killing slimes by hand in the swamp. Not really ideal, but it did work for the time being. From there, I was able to build another machine, this time covering half the area. I removed the platform and put in the finishing touches. Wait, what the heck? Why is this thing still going? I don't even understand. The self-confidence that I didn't have yesterday was now at an all-time high. I was a new man, PhD in redstone. I turned the machine on. The first pass through, it worked, but then I noticed something absolutely terrible. Yeah, I didn't build the return station. Oh my god, I'm a fool. 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 Guys, what do I do? What? What do I do? No. I messed up. I'm an idiot. I'm such an idiot. It was too late. The damage was done. Most of the machines ended up colliding with nearby terrain and blowing themselves up. The rest of them I had to go hijack over the ocean. Cleaning up the remains alone took nearly an hour, and I lost so many useful redstone components. This was a massive setback. I felt like a failure. I distracted myself by removing some more water. Placing down sponges was getting really old, but it was honestly all that I felt I was good at. Eventually, I gained the courage to rebuild the machine, and after triple checking everything, I turned it on. It
finally worked, and I spent the next 2 hours running the machine and removing even more water caves until everything was destroyed. But it was time to speed things up. Right now, I was a full week into this project, and there was a ton of work to do. But the good news was that by now I had the blueprint pretty much memorized for how to build one of these machines. I was lightning fast. My confidence was back, baby. At least it was until I hit the largest roadblock yet. This is officially the biggest water cave, not only that I've encountered so far on this project, but that I've actually ever seen in my entire life. I have literally no idea how I'm going to get rid of all this water. I actually feel like I'm going to throw up right now just looking at this. At first, I just kind of tried to ignore it and remove any other small pockets of water that I could find and then run the machine again. But one thing was very clear. I wasn't destroying this area until all of that water was gone. For some perspective, an ocean monument covers a 58 by 58 block area, and this cave was basically that size. So think of it like this. In the midst of this giant project, I basically had to drain an entire ocean monument as a side quest. That's not cool, dude. Right away, I figured it'd be best to revisit the idea of using technology to help me out. To start things off, I went back home. I turned every last piece of cobblestone that I had into furnaces, which I used to build up a retaining wall along the edge. You see, furnaces cannot get pushed by flying machines, and this was way cheaper than using obsidian. That was the start. Now to look at the manual, and by that I mean go back to YouTube. I found these pretty simple, compact designs for a water remover block pusher thing from Ray's-work that goes back and forth, sequentially removing one layer of water at a time. It was slow, but more importantly, it worked. About an hour later, I had 2 of the machines running at once, and I could focus on removing the other annoying caves by hand. After 2 whole hours of work, I only had about 10 layers of water removed. It wasn't the machine's fault, it was my fault. You see, these machines were really designed to get rid of water and lava pockets that you find near the bottom of your world, not entire oceans. I needed a new plan. Back to the drawing board. And by drawing board, yes, I mean YouTube again. I decided to revisit the water remover design that failed me earlier in the video. But this time I paid closer attention and noticed a very kind individual left a comment explaining how to fix the machine for current versions of Minecraft. It wasn't much, but it was enough to convince me to give it a try. I spent the rest of that night painstakingly prepping the area and building the machine. I was so scared. I had way too much invested. This had to work. Nervously, I turned the machine on, and to my pleasant surprise, it actually was working. I couldn't believe my eyes. I removed more water over the course of the next 15 minutes than I had in the previous 4 hours. I was the happiest boy in this swamp by a long shot. Also the only boy in this swamp, but that's not the point. Even with the redstone machines, draining this water cave still took nearly 6 hours alone. And after that, it took 2 more hours to remove the remaining water sections. But finally, on the end of day 10 of this project, I had cleared the rest of the area. Right now, it might look like I was done blowing up this hole. I wish that was the case, but the truth is, I wasn't even down to deep slate level yet. So now I had to rebuild all of the machines lower in the world and basically do everything over again. This time, it would require digging. I spent my morning clearing space in the walls to insert haze tube beacons. I blew up some area, dug out a trench, tore down part of the machine above, and rebuilt it. I was a lot closer to the ground now, which meant a higher chance of TNT sabotaging my plans, so I wanted to do some more testing at first. I'm glad I did, because it didn't work. So I rebuilt it higher. Surely it would work this time. It did. And the best part, there was almost no water down in the deep slate level. I couldn't believe it. An hour later, I had yet another trench blown up. By hour 3, I got a little cocky and forgot to build the return station. It's actually crazy how little my intelligence increased over the course of this project. Not to mention, I had exposed the lower section of that massive water cave from earlier. But there was a new challenge. At this point, the machine had exposed a pretty big lava cave. This was new to me, but I did know what to do. I saw a while back that you can actually use scaffolding to remove large amounts of lava, and I wanted to give that a try. To my surprise, it actually worked really well. However, it was clear that this lava pool was bigger than I thought. I even had to make a makeshift bamboo farm near me just to keep up with my scaffolding usage. This puppy ended up being nearly 15 blocks deep, but finally it was gone. A third trench was done, and then a fourth. I continued digging more trenches to to build more machines. My sanity was gone at this point. So were my slime blocks. I swear to God, if I find out which one of you stole my slime, just kidding, I blew them up. It turns out at this point, I was pretty much low on every redstone component actually. Luckily for me, I basically had a slime farm in the hole now, and after a quick trip to the nether for some quartz and paying my clerics a quick visit, I was back in business. Oh, also, more coral fans. I still don't know what the heck these are used for. The other side was not as forgiving. There was a ton more water to remove. No matter what I did, it seemed to be there. Here's what I want you to do. Leave a comment guessing how many sponges I placed down during this project, and I will pin whoever is closest.
Finally, my friends, we are down another set of layers on this perimeter project. Honestly, I haven't even recorded a clip in like at least 5 days because I don't even know what to do. This is just so boring.
By now, I was down to Y level -36, which meant that if I built the entire machine one more time, then I could make it all the way down to bedrock. I was on the home stretch, 2 weeks of work leading to this very moment. I dug one final trench to build the last machine. Tearing down the old machine, however, was proving to be a little bit difficult. Luckily, my brain's pretty big, so I gathered some ice and made some water streams to collect everything down in one place at the bottom. It was time to rebuild. My patience was thin. I wanted to build the entire machine at once for a grand finale. No going back now. It was done. Shaking with excitement and lots of nervousness that I messed the redstone up, I turned it on. This was by far my biggest redstone stunt ever, and overall it was a success. However, there was lava and obsidian everywhere, so after 3 more hours of removing all of that, I was able to run the machine one final time, and with that, the world was removed. You guys, I am so happy right now. This has been over 2 weeks in the making so far. Just to recap, I've got a new pet, I've drained the swamp, and finally I have made this massive hole. I actually can't believe how large this is. All of that to lead into phase 4, which I actually almost forgot about. I was literally about to do the outro, but no, we have a witch farm to make. I didn't waste any time. That obsidian platform I built earlier was a lifesaver. I was lightning fast. Even though I've never actually built a witch farm before, I felt like at this moment I knew everything about them. Okay, yeah, I was just following a tutorial. It's a design by Il Mango, and it works pretty good. I'd very much recommend it. The swamp was drained, the hole was created, and the witches were farming. I was so excited that there was only one thing I could think to do. I had to tell my cat. He would be so proud. All of this work for him. So I flew up out of the hole and rushed across the field. My world came crashing down when I saw the string. He had been murdered.
Good morning, gamers. It's currently episode 2 of my largest project ever in Minecraft Hardcore. If you're not up to speed, let me recap. In my last video, I was searching for a witch hut when I found this really cute black cat. I named him Dennis. Immediately, Dennis was my best friend, and I vowed to give him a better life. I spent the next 50 hours draining all of the water in the swamp, running machines to blow up the entire area, and even building a witch farm to make his old owners pay for how badly they treated him. Oh, Dennis, where are you at, buddy? I made you this really big hole, dude. You gotta come see it. Dennis? No, no, oh my god, no, 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 this can't be true, this cannot be true. Who did this? It's been a full week since Dennis was taken from us. Honestly, nothing really has meaning anymore. I can hardly get out of bed, and I'm about to just call it quit. Build 20 farms? Make an entire kingdom? My cat uses Discord? I had to act fast, and oddly enough, I knew right where to start. I began gathering materials around the base area and then made a quick pit stop to steal some bamboo from a nearby jungle. With so many questions still lingering, I set off to an unfamiliar place. A place I hadn't been to in a long, long time. That's right, you guys, I'm starting things off today with a shulker farm. I figured that this is the most logical place to start because I have not been end raiding in at least 5 months, and I will definitely need a way to store the items that all of these farms produce. The only problem is that most shulker farms require moving at least one of these idiots to the overworld, which is absolutely absurd. I'm not gonna do that, especially because I'm only going to run this thing for like 10 minutes at a time. Luckily for me, I managed to find a much simpler design that I could build right here in the end. And now that the farm is basically built, I just have to get one of these guys up to there, which
should be pretty easy, I think. I made this platform with a bunch of rails on it and then put an activator rail at the end. And from there, it was just a matter of capturing one of these guys. Okay, and now once he reaches the end there, he should teleport right into the farm. Okay, that didn't work. All right, take two, here we go. Come on, buddy, you got this. Yes, let's go, baby, it's in. Just like that, the shulker farm was complete. Now I just had to wait a few minutes for the farm to ramp up, and before long, I would have an unlimited supply of shulker shells. But instead of AFKing like an adult, I figured I would just strike up some conversation with the locals. Hey, man, quick question for you. You know any good, like, burger joints around here? All right, fine, it's fine. I won't eat, it's fine. I'll be hungry, it's okay. Not a big deal. Oh my god. What's the deal with that guy? I just wanted a burger, man. I boxed myself in and questioned my life choices for a bit before checking to see that I had accumulated a pretty hefty stack of shulker shells. Ooh, not bad at all for about 10 minutes. I had to be careful. Back there, I was messing around and I let my guard down and almost lost everything as a result of it. But there was still so much to do. On the way back home, I started pondering some important questions. What farms am I actually supposed to build? What does Dennis mean by build a kingdom? What was he trying to tell me before logging off? Am I getting scammed? I needed answers and I needed them fat. Wait, hang on, wait, what? Dennis is playing Cyberpunk 2077? This told me everything. I spent the rest of that night researching what a retro cyberpunk city would look like and determining what blocks I would need to build it. From there, it was just a matter of reverse engineering what farms I would need to make to help me get those blocks, and before I knew it, I had a list. Before I continued building farms, though, I collected a bunch of ice and began outlining the upper and lower perimeter of this hole so I could flood the sides and bottom with water. The grand plan is to turn shaders on for this build, and I want the entire area to reflect off of itself. I think that'll look pretty cool. I couldn't figure out how to flood the bottom though, so yeah, that's gonna be tough. I'm breaking the next 3 farms up into what I call the redstone category, because they will help me get materials to make the redstone components, which I will definitely need to make some of the later, more complex farms. And ironically, the main thing I need isn't even redstone at all. I already have that covered thanks to the witch farm I built in the last episode. So with that said, farms 2 and 3 are a cobblestone and a stone generator. Building a fast cobblestone generator has always been a pretty easy thing to do, but since 1.19 came out, it has actually gotten even easier. You see, normally it requires obsidian to make a blast chamber, but you can actually replace that obsidian now with waterlogged leaves, which work just the same, except they are like way easier to get. In terms of getting lots of regular stone, there really isn't a good way to get it besides mining yourself. So basically all I did was build this machine that pushes you back and forth between 2 pistons, allowing you to mine it pretty efficiently. In doing my research, I noticed that a lot of the complex farms, which I'm going to build later in this video, need honey blocks. But last time that I checked, to actually build a honey farm, I first needed to find bees, and I don't have any of those, believe it or not. So I set off exploring, and luckily enough, there was a forest pretty close to my big hole, which is good because it's actually one of the only biomes where bee nests spawn to begin with. Hey, yo, pal, how you doing, buddy? Where do you live at? I quickly realized that finding a bee and finding a bee nest are 2 very different things. Apparently these guys just wander around aimlessly and forget where the heck they live. I spent a while longer searching the forest until eventually I collected a few bee nests with various amounts of bees in them. I only really needed 2 bees for my grand plan to work. I went back home and got to work building up the bee farm. I put shears in a few of the dispensers so I could collect some honeycomb to make more beehives, which I could then use to fill up the rest of the farm. And then I spent some time breeding more bees until all of the hives were full. The rest of that night was spent building up another bee farm module because I realized just having one was a little bit slow. The first 4 farms were done, meaning I had everything to make redstone components for the remaining farms. But something just fell off. I don't know how to describe it other than saying that my world feels really ugly right now. There's a satisfying feeling in Minecraft that comes when you build something you're proud of, something beautiful that makes you feel connected to the world. But right now, having spent the entire last month literally destroying the world and now filling in the remains with ugly farms, I was feeling really bad about the state of this place. You see, for the last month or so, I've spent my time playing Minecraft following a very strict set of rules. Build this machine to blow up this hole. Follow this tutorial to build this farm, and then get this item. I had the same feeling I get when I build like a dresser from IKEA, which let me tell you is not a good one. I just felt like a robot going through the motions. And as a reflection of that, my world felt totally destroyed, completely ugly, and totally non-authentic. So instead of forcing myself to follow these rules, I asked myself, how can I break them? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you what I am calling the secret layer. What is the secret layer, you ask? Allow me to explain. The secret layer is many things. First and foremost, it's a secret. Don't tell anybody. Secondly, it's a super cool hangout spot. This is going to serve as the storage room to organize all of my items while building the farms, and also give me a safe spot to come and craft things. And thirdly, it is not an evil layer. The secret layer promotes an inclusive culture of peace, love, and positivity where all are welcome. And the best part was that I had no plan for what this would look like. I chose this location along the side of the massive hole, and then first installed some haste tube beacons, which would make digging a lot faster. And speaking of digging, I spent the next few hours clearing out this massive area. I outlined the entrance at a wooden trim, installed this cool looking arch ceiling, and then started building a massive nether portal here. I wanted this to be the place where I enter the hole. I kept on digging, expanding out the side rooms and installing a bunch of storage chests. It felt good to be back in control. I wanted this place to tell a story, and what better of a way to do that than building a museum exhibit showcasing the redstone machine that helped blow up this massive hole. Finally, I was happy with the interior design, and aside from the fact that I ran out of building blocks, I still felt like this place was missing something. And then it hit me. Wait a minute, what if I connect these farms up to the storage in the secret layer? This was a crazy idea, but I knew I could pull it off. I got to work installing item filters for all of the chests, and from there it was just a matter of digging really long tunnels and connecting up the output of the farms to a series of water streams. These water streams connect directly up to the storage inside of the secret layer. This was a turning point for me. Not only did I just set up a highly efficient storage room that would make building the remaining farms way more enjoyable, but I built this super cool base in the process. I'm splitting the next 4 farms up into the concrete category. To build this retro city, I will need absolute heaps of concrete. Okay then, that seems simple enough. To get concrete, I just need to build a machine that turns concrete powder into actual concrete. To get the concrete powder in the first place, I just need a bunch of gravel and sand. I have no idea how much gravel and sand I would have to collect by hand to have enough, so there's no way I'm going to do that. Luckily, there's a way to get both of these renewably, but the path there is not as straightforward as you might think. In fact, farm number 5 has nothing to do with sand or gravel. It's actually a gold farm. At this point, you're probably wondering how I'm going to turn gold into concrete, or maybe you already have that figured out, in which case, good for you. It'll all make sense in a little bit. But for right now, I spent the next few hours collecting magma blocks. 8 shulker boxes full of it, to be exact. This would be used for the spawn platforms of the gold farm. It's pretty dangerous collecting this stuff since you're usually below lava and also in the nether, but it's pretty easy to find, honestly. After that, I stopped over at the end to take down a small pillar for its obsidian, and then paid a visit to my good buddy Chad to collect some turtle eggs. Hey Chad, how you doing, bud?
It's been 6 months since she left. I no longer know what love is.
Okay, yeah, so apparently Chad's wife left him. Can we get some F's in the chat for my man Chad? That was a dead end, so I went searching further in my world, and before long, I found a bunch more turtles on the shoreline, and they were happily in love. Hey, are you guys like together or? Oh, heck yeah, you guys are. It didn't take long, and I had all of the eggs I needed. When it came time to build the gold farm, I had some choices to make. Do I want a looting-based gold farm or an auto-kill one? Do I want it to be an XP farm? And honestly, I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted something that was easy to build and gave me lots of gold. I ended up choosing a design that relies on zombie piglins spawning on a series of magma blocks, pathfinding towards turtle eggs, and then entering a nether portal where they are teleported to the overworld and then killed. And speaking of the overworld, it was now time to make the kill chamber. In the video I saw, they actually built the portal up in the sky and had the piglins fall down to ground level. But I ended up deciding it would be cooler to dig out a big trench for them to fall into and then simply leave the portal right here. After putting in storage, building up a glass wall, and lighting the portal, the gold farm was officially complete. And then that feeling returned. I flew around to just see this portal chilling in the middle of a frozen ocean with a big hole dug below it, and the whole thing just felt out of place. I mean, how could it not? So why not build something here? And what better of a thing to build than an ice tower? I'm pretty sure I literally searched ice tower on Pinterest and I don't remember what came up, but I found this design I really liked, and from there I started outlining the shape of it with dirt just to get an idea of what I was working with. I figured this would be the right move because normally I would design something like this ahead of time in creative mode, so I was a little bit out of my comfort zone right now. Funnily enough though, with a bit of patience and some trial and error, it didn't take long until I had a shape that I could work with. In terms of a block palette, I wanted to keep it fitting to the area around it, so I pretty much stuck with ice variants and snow. I even hollowed out this iceberg to collect packed ice so I wouldn't destroy the natural terrain. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was adding to the world, not removing. It was nice. With the shape already determined, building up the actual tower was really quite easy. I even found a good use for diorite, which is something I never thought I would ever say in my entire life. Before I knew it, the entire tower was complete, and suddenly the gold farm felt like it had a place inside of my world. I was already a full week into this project. At my current pace, it would take an entire month to finish building all 20 farms. And honestly, that didn't even really bother me right now. So if you haven't made the connection yet, farm number 6 is going to be a piglin bartering station. If you give a piglin a piece of gold, they will trade you one of 18 random items, one of which is gravel. So yes, I am quite literally turning gold into gravel. Building up this farm was pretty simple. I mean, I just followed a tutorial. It's not that hard. The hard part, however, was actually getting the piglins loaded into the farm. This farm is set up for 24 piglins, which means it's extremely fast, but also requires you to get 24 piglins. That is not fun. Even though I built the farm on the nether roof, I made sure to put it in a crimson forest biome, which meant that I could build temporary spawn platforms for piglins to spawn on. From there, it was just a matter of name tagging them. John, to be specific. Hey, John, how you doing, buddy? Oh, okay, yep, you're mad. It took me a good couple of hours to get these piglins in place, but boy, was it worth it, as this thing generates an absolute ton of items. Okay, so just to recap, I've built a gold farm to get me gravel, and now I just need a way to farm sand, and I'll be one step closer to infinite concrete. But farming sand isn't the most straightforward process. It actually involves making a sand duplication machine located at a place none other than an end portal. I chose to build the sand farm at the stronghold located in the middle of the ocean because apparently I like to make my life a living hell. Building the farm was honestly pretty easy. I cleared out some space in the room and then grew in these red mushrooms because apparently they can just eliminate end portal blocks. Yeah, that was pretty weird. The redstone circuits themselves were pretty straightforward as well, and by straightforward I mean yes, I was following a tutorial. And just like that, the farm was essentially complete. But now I had to build a chunk loader, which is basically a fancy way of saying that you have two nether portals sharing items back and forth with dispensers. This allows the sand farm to still run even when I'm AFKing in the end. Speaking of the end, after loading up and turning on the machines, it was time to go there. It was quite weird seeing sand literally appear on the spawn platform and just get yeeted off the edge. All I had to do then was build 4 separate collection mechanisms using buttons to break the sand and hoppers to collect it. There you have it, folks, unlimited sand. Initially, I told myself I wouldn't ever make a sand farm because duplicating building blocks has always felt like cheating. After a lot of thought, I ended up giving in and making one for this project because without it, I would essentially need to destroy an entire desert, and that's not really cool. Despite that, I still felt guilty after making this farm, so I wanted to help connect the farm into the rest of my world in a more natural way. And what better of a way to do that than with my biggest build yet? Considering that this stronghold was in the middle of an ocean, I pretty much had a blank canvas to work with. I ended up deciding that a massive sandcastle on a custom island in the middle of the ocean would look really cool to try and build. So like any build, the first thing I did was use my new favorite method of outlining a shape with dirt. The ice tower I built previously taught me that if the shape was good, the rest of the build would fall into place a lot easier. Overall, the blueprint for this build was very simple. A small tower on the east, a not so small tower on the west, and then a wall connecting the two together. It took a while to get the shape right, but before too long I had something I was pretty happy with. I started with the small tower, building up the main sections with stripped birchwood and transitioning into smooth sandstone to act as a gradient. To add some depth and color contrast, I filled in the middle sections with spruce wood and then installed these window things. Recently I saw some concept art where the tower split off into 4 smaller towers at the top, and I thought, hey, I want to build that. Surprisingly, getting the shape in didn't take too long, but for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what block palette I wanted for the roof section. So I just built 4 different ones and then picked the one that I liked the most. Okay, so we're off to a pretty good start as far as I'm concerned. But this is always the point where my brain tries to play tricks on me. No way this build will look good.
It's too tall.
Get a real job, loser.
Go outside.
I guess I was just nervous that the build would end up looking bad and that I would waste a bunch of time, especially because I still had so much work to do with this overall project. But like anything, building is a process, and the only way to build something cool is to trust and follow that process. Next came the castle wall, followed by this upper house section. The whole thing was made out of spruce wood, which looked totally out of place right now, but I was not worried about that at all. The bigger challenge was getting the roof how I wanted it, but ended up creating this nice sloped roof, which looks super cool if you ask me. Oh my god, yes, dude, that looks so good. I'm actually doing it. I feel like I'm having a breakthrough, you guys. By now, I felt like I was doing a lot more block placing and a lot less thinking. The tall tower was under construction, but immediately I realized it would need a fair bit of detailing because of just how large it was. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. I can work with this. I remember watching one of my pal Looney's streams while building this part, and one thing he said was to treat building like a series of problems that needs to be solved. And hearing that changed my entire perspective. For the longest time, I had been hesitant to build something out of my comfort zone because I thought it would look bad and that I would let people down. But what I didn't realize was that this was just the first step in the process. A good build is made from making lots of mistakes. And it was these exact mistakes that allowed me to build, by far, my favorite thing in this world. It took me almost a full week of playing on and off to build this castle. It had completely consumed all of my attention within this world. Honestly, I didn't even care though. It just felt good to have made something that I was proud of. I felt absolutely terrible right now. During my little journey to self-discovery or whatever, I had completely lost track of why I was even here in the first place. My best friend Dennis was in danger and I only had 10 days to save him. For farm number 8, I finally installed a use for all of my sand and gravel with this concrete converting machine. Basically, it just turns concrete powder into actual concrete, pushes it along with a series of pistons, and ultimately blows it up with TNT for easy collection. My new fancy building strategy didn't matter right now. I had 12 farms to build and they had to be built as fast as possible. I'm grouping up farms 9 through 12 together because they all work together to help me get end rods. I hardly ever use these things because they are an absolute pain to get, but apparently my cat has standards because they look amazing in modern builds. And if you didn't know, there are other ways to get these things that don't involve stealing them from end cities. But the crafting recipe is a weird one, which is why farm number 9 is a chorus farm. I'm not gonna lie, I did have a feeling I would need to build this farm way back in the shulker farm section, so I did collect a couple of flowers while I was out in the end. These things are weird. For a chorus plant to grow, you must plant a chorus flower on a piece of end stone. But when harvesting them, the only way to get the flowers back is by breaking them with your hands or shooting them with an arrow. This, paired with the fact that you have to manually replant the flowers, makes a chorus farm basically impossible to be automatic. But after some searching, I found this design, which fills up a series of dispensers with arrows and then rains down absolute hellfire on the chorus plants below. Not only does this look absolutely ridiculous in the best way possible, but it also automatically breaks off the chorus flowers for easy replanting. Unfortunately, chorus fruits aren't enough to get end rods. You actually need popped chorus fruit, which you get from smelting these chorus fruit in a furnace. So for farm number 10, I'm building a super smelter. This thing works by evenly distributing items across a series of furnaces so they can be smelted extremely fast. This is good and all, but for it to work automatically, I need a fuel source. Believe it or not, there are 75 unique items that can fuel a furnace in Minecraft. You're probably familiar with the common ones: coal, lava, blaze rods, beehives. Wait a second, beehives? Daylight detectors? Carpets? Oh, okay, yeah, so it turns out most of these are totally useless. Luckily for me, bamboo is a pretty great source of fuel. It's very easy to farm in mass quantities and can be automatically sent right into the furnaces with a series of water streams. Now, most bamboo farms you see involve building this big cage thing and then swooping through every so often with a flying machine to break the plants. But I like this design because it generates a steady stream stream of bamboo and is very easily expandable. The only problem was that I didn't really know how many layers I would need to sustainably power these furnaces, so after building up 2 of them, I decided that would be good for right now. Only 1 more farm was needed, and I would have access to all of the end rods my little heart desires. Apart from popped chorus fruit, the recipe also requires blaze rods. So yes, for farm number 12 in this journey, we are building a blaze farm. Okay, well, that was a literal nightmare, but there we go, my friends. Blaze Farm is complete. When I got back home, I added 1 more layer to the bamboo farm to ensure I'd have enough fuel and fired up the super smelter. I even used my newfound access to end rods and spent some time detailing the secret layer some more. There was still a ton of work to do, but I was feeling optimistic as day 1 came to a close. I woke up on day 2 absolutely scared shitless that I wouldn't be able to finish this quest in time. But it didn't matter what I thought. 7 more farms plus an entire kingdom to build in the next 9 days. The theme for today's farms all revolve around me being far too lazy to chop trees by hand, which is why farm 13 is another tree farm. This thing is awesome because it provides me with all the warped wood and shroom lights I'll ever need, which is going to be a lot. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that this is the most complicated thing I have ever built in Minecraft. And to this day, I still have no idea how it works. I mean, look at this thing. It looks like an actual computer. Anyways, my stupidity aside, I wasn't out of the woods yet. Get it? Woods? Okay, I'm done. Growing mass amounts of warped wood will require a lot of warped fungus, aka those little blue mushrooms that the hoglins are scared of, which is why farm 14 is exactly that, a fungus farm. This thing produces so many items per hour, but since I only really care about the fungus, I installed filters for them and then simply burned the rest of the stuff to prevent lag. This is shaping up to be quite a lot of work, but the work is not done yet. You see, I still needed thousands of bone meal per hour to actually grow the trees and run the farm sustainably. So technically, I could just convert the bones from my mob farm or wither skeleton farm or my other mob farm into bone meal, but why would I do that when farm number 15 generates the bone meal for me? Essentially, what this is a glorified moss farm, but instead of outputting that moss for my collection, it funnels the moss back through a series of composters, turning it into bone meal. The crazy thing here is that composting moss and its components actually gives you more bone meal than it took to create the moss in the first place. Basically, this thing breaks the second law of thermodynamics. If you know, you know. Anyways, engineering trauma aside, this thing took a while to get going because it had to generate enough bone meal to fill up all the dispensers. But when that was finally done, I had a pretty stable source of bone meal. Alright, the moment we've been waiting for. A fungus farm, a bone meal farm, and this thing, all to get me shroom lights. And the craziest thing is, I had to build these 2 farms before I could even test this, so I don't even know if this thing works. I'll put it bluntly, the farm did not work. Immediately, I had a pretty concerning explosion, and soon there was lava everywhere, basically rendering the entire contraption useless. Also, let me clarify, I built it wrong. The machine works great, I'm sure. Either way, I can hardly even express to you how not willing I was to fix this. In fact, I decided just to leave it sitting there, a scrap of what it once was to serve as a friendly reminder to myself of my own redstone abilities. I spent the next couple of hours rebuilding a much more simplified version of another tree farm, which actually works despite giving me a lot less shroom lights. Day 2 was coming to an end, but not until I built 1 more tree farm. This one being for dark oak wood. Honestly, nobody told Dennis, but this farm is mostly just for me because I really like dark oak wood, but I'm tired of chopping the trees down. I don't think it'll work very well with this cyberpunk futuristic city vibe, but we'll see. So it's currently day 3 of trying to build 20 farms and an entire kingdom so my cat will come back to me. Right now we're getting super close to finishing up the farms. In fact, I only have 4 more left to build, and my goal is to finish them today so I'll have an entire week to work on the kingdom. So yeah, I'm gonna get working on that. Farm 17 is a guardian farm. Personally, I think prismarine works very well with modern builds. Not to mention sea lanterns are still by far my favorite lighting block in the entire game. Normally, I would take the time to do the thing where you drain the water and build a cool base around the monument, but I'm in a severe time crunch, so we will definitely do that later in the world, but not right now. But right now, I had a much simpler design. In fact, this design doesn't require any draining at all. Alright, so the guardian farm is done, and this thing only took a couple couple of hours to build, which is not bad at all considering the rates of this thing. Despite now having access to sea lanterns, I wanted to build a frog light farm next to get my hands on additional lighting blocks that come in 3 different colors. Here's how it went. To begin this journey, I first needed to find some frogs. Luckily, this shouldn't have been a problem because I'm surrounded by a swamp. Oh, froggies, where are ya? I'm a man looking for some froggy friends. Finding frogs near my base was proving to be quite difficult. I guess the rumors must have spread about the destruction I've caused throughout their homeland. I flew off further afield. Finally, I found some. I bred them and saw they gave me some tadpoles, which I immediately killed. Ooh. Yeah, that was an accident. I was too embarrassed to hang around there any longer, so I kept searching, found more frogs, made more tadpoles, and then collected the tadpoles. I raised these tadpoles in 3 different biomes: cold, warm, and normal, I guess, until I had a small army of frogs. A small, very well behaved, and very hungry army of frogs. The frog light farm is basically a magma cube farm, but instead of killing the magma cubes yourself, you let the frogs eat them for you. In doing so, they spit out a frog light. These come in 3 different colors and they look absolutely amazing. 18 farms down, 2 more to go. Farm 19 was a flower farm. This would give me access to a couple more dyes that would help with various concrete colors. At this point, the only colors I still need dye for are blue and yellow. So to keep things simple, I found this spot near my base that grows blue and yellow flowers and built the farm there. It's a very simple design, but it works very well. The last farm I'm going to build is a wool farm to help offset all of the concrete I will be using in this build. It was also a pretty great excuse to put a couple of sheep in a boat with me and absolutely yeet ourselves off into the hole. Oh baby, easy does it. While breeding up the sheep, I started working on the farm, building up 24 modules, which should provide plenty of wool going forward. The idea here is simple. The sheep eat grass because they are hungry. An observer detects that, which powers a dispenser with shears, giving them a haircut and giving me their wool. Building up the farm was the easy part. Getting the sheep in place was an absolute nightmare. Oh my god, what are you doing? You are so dumb. Eventually, I got them all into place. And now that all 20 farms are done and generating me resources, I have exactly 1 week to build up this entire kingdom. I might be screwed. Do you ever think about the future? Let me explain. 1 year ago, I started this hardcore world. Things were a lot different back then. For instance, I had to punch trees with my bare fist. I made tools, developed farming systems, even made some friends. As time went on, my tools, they improved, my farms, they advanced, and my friends, they went to jail. Somewhere in there, I even learned how to fly. Pretty fun, right? Wrong. Like any capitalist, I became power hungry, using the infinite tools at my disposal to destroy the very land I once loved. But that changes today, because in this video, I'm rebuilding everything from the ground up, and I guarantee you have never seen anything like this before. Welcome, my friends, to the future. Also, I only have 1 week to complete this, or my cat Dennis is probably gonna leave me forever, so let's just not think about that and yeah, get working. Before I could actually begin building, I first had to learn what the heck cyberpunk even was. Now, according to Google, it's a genre of science fiction set, or in simple terms, big buildings, robots, and sad people. I spent the next few hours just slamming cyberpunk-esque keywords into Pinterest and seeing what came up that looked actually cool and like something that I could actually build. Before long, I found a bunch of these pictures that are referred to as voxel art, which essentially means that they're pixel art, but in 3D. Okay, so I think I've finally found something that will be a good template to help me start building. There's this voxel cyberpunk town by Elena Dudnikova. I think I can actually build like this first building here. I can do that, I think. And like any good build, the first thing I needed was a good dirt outline. Cue the montage. And now it's time to outline. My only real goal for today was to get one building done, just to prove that I could actually do it. I wasn't really sure of the scale yet of these buildings, so I just outlined a shape that was close enough to the inspo pic that I could actually work off of it. Before long, the outline was done, and it was time to get materials collected. And this is where the farms I built last episode would really come in handy. And yes, I do mean the episode from 5 months ago. With the material collected, it was time to get building. To begin, I placed in a beacon with jump boost, and from there started placing blocks from the ground up. Right now, I had literally no idea what I was doing. I started with these big, bright windows with sea lanterns, and then placed in what I guess would be a sign with some light blue concrete. To be more efficient, I spent a majority of my time adding details to the front side of the build as opposed to the sides, because that's what you'll actually see when you walk or fly through here. After killing this wandering trader for trespassing, I began building up this square thing. I'm calling it a square thing because I have no idea what it is. I just remember thinking, yeah, this looks cool, and then going with the flow. I stopped by to say hi to my friends in jail. Did you know they can sell you stuff? Immediately, I broke my own rule, I guess, because I added in these big, huge windows on the sidewall that nobody's ever going to see before I began working more on the front side. Working my way up to the top of the build, I added in this big red heart because I guess you needed to be reminded that this is a Minecraft video. Yeah. I went back through and added in some lettering to this building. I named it Wood. Wait, Wood? What does that even mean? Before adding in some details with some blackstone walls, trapdoors, even this big shroom light power strip along the side. Then I built this cute little archway entrance thing out of wool, and then built up this piping system that I guess imagined would like take the resources from this building and then send them to the storage up above. I then spent the remainder of the day adding in various odds and ends of detail, as well as these roof pillars that give off like a neon yellowish smog, which I think is actually a pretty cool detail. And just like that, my friends, the first building is complete. Did it take me 15 hours to make? Yeah, it did. Do I like it? Kind of, but I guess it's done, and that's really what matters right now. Before day 2 of building, I needed some more inspiration. You see, about a year ago, I downloaded this game called Stray, which is where you wander aimlessly through this post-apocalyptic world as a cat. Apart from being pretty fun and absolutely adorable, this game is full of cyberpunk inspiration. I basically spent the 5 hours of playtime in this game wandering around taking screenshot after screenshot of a building or a sign that I thought would look cool, and before long, I had a pretty big library of images saved up. Okay, yeah, that was fun, but back to Minecraft. Back in the hardcore world, I took a trip over to the mesa to collect some terracotta and then began outlining, you guessed it, building number 2. I was definitely feeling more confident than yesterday, but still overall very clueless, and so I kept the same reference image but allowed myself a little bit more freedom to actually freestyle things with the shaping. Before long, the outline was complete, so I began working on the front facade just like in the first building. And this is where the first revelation happened. I'm talking about lighting. To me, cyberpunk is like this perfect blend of dark and gloomy with like bright neon lights. So how do you combine bright lights with dark and gloomy? The answer, as it turns out, is with a gradient, or basically where one color gradually changes to a different color. Look at these two signs. Sorry, yeah, ignore that. That's for a future video. The first one is just purple. I mean, it looks good, doesn't look bad by any means. The one on the right, however, starts with purple concrete powder and then slowly transitions its way into a darker block like blue terracotta. You can literally see the light fading into darkness, and that is what adds so much life to this build. I used this very technique to add a couple of signs to the front and then began working on one of many apartment buildings. I'm serious, I build a lot of these things, so I'm just warning you now, get used to it. Using the different colored frog lights as well as various colors of concrete and concrete powder, you can get a lot of different colors and shades in here. I also did the opposite with some of them by going through with blackstone to maybe suggest that they're like abandoned or something. Things were going pretty good right now. I could feel my brain getting bigger with every single block that I place. Okay, and now that the first half of the building was pretty much done, I wanted to go ahead and build these 3 massive signs along the top half of the building. I wasn't sure what to put on the signs at first, but eventually had the idea to maybe build a fire emoji. It's my favorite one. For the second sign, I built some weird condensed version of my name, like N2B or something, which I guess is like a little bit conceited, but I also think it just looks really good. And then finish things off with a simple neon green sign with these like diagonal line things. Going back through with more roof pillars, this time with much taller ones of varying colors. I added in more smog with various colored frog lights and blocks flowing in the same direction to, I guess, like simulate some wind or something along those lines. Either way, I was definitely liking what I built so far today a lot more than yesterday, which was a good sign. All right, well, day 2 is also coming to a close. Not really happy about that, but the second building is complete, and the good news is that I like it a lot better than day 1's building. It did still take me 12 hours to complete though, and that is not acceptable at this point. I knew if I wanted to actually finish this city in 1 week, I had to call in the big guns. So meet my friend, Dame the Dime. Dame is a homie of mine who builds some of the craziest things you've ever seen in Minecraft, all inside of his own hardcore world. How would you describe the cyberpunk build style?
It's really bright. It's violently bright. It's a really complex build style to make it work. It definitely would not be a first build style that I would do.
By now I've learned 2 things. 1, cyberpunk is very complex, and 2, I'm an idiot for trying it. All right, man, be honest with me. How do you like what I've built so far?
The build itself, I think, looks wicked. It looks lifeless in terms of people being there.
Over the course of this conversation, Dame gave me a lot more useful building tips, and I even shared with him some future plans I have for this project. I have an idea. I might...
Oh, no.
I spent the rest of day 3 actually building, this time with a lot more insight. The main tip that Dame gave me was to learn where and when to use detail, or more particularly, when not to use detail. For instance, I built the first 2 buildings as full 3D shapes, when in reality, I'm never gonna fly behind them in the first place, so who cares? Also, most of the cyberpunk reference photos that I have are actually a bunch of small buildings kind of smushed together to make one large city block. And realizing this was a game changer. By the end of day 3, I had the front facades outlined on the entire back city block. And imagining these buildings as like smaller pieces of a larger puzzle was really helping me imagine what the details would look like when everything was finished here. All right, so day 3 is coming to a close. This was a good one. My brain is absolutely filled with ideas right now. So yeah, even though there's like a ton more work to do still, I feel like I have a bit more of a plan right now. On day 4, I was back in full build mode. I installed some beacons to help me build faster, and from there, I got to work. The theme today was less think and more build. The concepts I've used so far of like a mix of apartment buildings and large signs was good, but now it was time to put it into action. Before long, I had an entire set of buildings outlined, and continued with another set of pillars along the top as with the theme, this time with purple and magenta as the colors. Things are actually going really good right now, besides the fact that I seem to have made a mob farm underneath of the build and also got myself trapped under bedrock, you know, pretty casual stuff. All right, more and more of the buildings are actually starting to come together right now. I feel like I'm getting in a bit of a groove. And I have this really weird, crazy idea, but I think that we can pull it off. Yeah, I built a pineapple. Taking some inspiration from the cityscape I've built so far, I wanted to add in some more outside influence to the build, bringing in this giant Pac-Man on the front side of this building. I know Pac-Man's like technically from the 80s, but it has this retro vibe that I think fits in the city very well. On day 5, I placed in more blocks. Wait, what? I placed in more blocks. Who wrote this script? Why would I write that? And now I was left with this giant empty space between 2 buildings, but I had an idea for how to tie them together. Oh my god, okay, so hear me out, guys. What if we build a sky bridge? Oh my god, yes, we're building a sky bridge. I guess the better term here is actually sky tunnel because it's like fully enclosed, but the idea is that it's made almost fully with glass so it lets lots of light in. Using a bunch of sea lanterns, I was able to backlight the entire tunnel, and from there added in a floor with various different cyan colors. There were 2 things I wanted this city to accomplish as a whole. Firstly, I wanted it to look good from a distance. I feel like I was actually doing that so far. The second thing was that I wanted this city to look really good up close, and that was where I was lacking. To do this, I would need to get a lot more creative and build more than just a bunch of neon signs. One of the themes I noticed while researching Cyberpunk was the heavy influence of Japanese style architecture. Regardless of the why, I can't deny that places like Tokyo look very cyberpunk with their neon signs and crowded side streets. By day 6, I took some more inspiration from a crammed side street, and in addition to building up more apartment buildings, I started experimenting with slanted roofs at various heights to add in more depth and life to the build. I figured that using a similar block palette for most of these roofs would be a good idea, that way they don't take away from the main details. I also began experimenting with more advanced texturing through here to kind of showcase where buildings were damaged or weathering over time. I was zooming through the build at this point. It felt like every hour I had another apartment building constructed. It's actually crazy to think that just like a few days ago, I had to build this entirely based off an image online, and now I'm just like freehanding it from my brain. I finished off day 6 by adding in this cute detail of like a little fish market down at the bottom. I don't know, I feel like $1.99 for fish is a pretty good price. I'd pay that. All right, guys, so it's currently day 7, which means today is the last day to finish building this entire city. The last couple buildings were pretty much the same. Apartments, AC units, these big blue and purple signs. I even mixed things up here and tried to build a massive roof on top. Before I knew it, the entire front facade of the buildings were complete, and now I was just left with the sidewalls. But as it turns out, if I filled in these walls completely solid, the TNT from my nether tree farm would actually blow a hole in them. My only workaround was to lean into this a bit and make a giant hole in the wall myself as if an explosion went off. I went through using lots of different textures to simulate cracks and damage, as well as lots of burning netherrack and blackstone for like ash and debris. Well, that was a happy accident, but man, that looks really cool. Time was ticking. I realized now that the first half of the city was lacking compared to the second half, so I spent the rest of the day going back through adding in more detail. More roofs, AC units, and lots of texturing. I found this website called HueBlocks, where you basically input 2 different Minecraft blocks, and it generates a gradient between them. This was very helpful because it told me exactly what blocks to use to add texture to the plain, flat concrete walls that I had built previously. And as day 7 came to a close, so did the city itself. At least that's what I thought, but nothing happened. I waited, and then I waited some more. I tried to DM him, but nothing. Dennis was gone. Dennis always was gone. I saw the string there on the ground that day. The TNT bombers, all of the farms, this entire city for nothing. I'm telling you now, this story is just beginning. You see, these videos take literal months to record and edit, and it felt like I was just grinding alone in my office day in and day out until finally one day I hit the upload button, and then the process just restarts. I needed some more connection, and that's where you guys come in. Okay, let's be real. Right now, the city was not complete. In fact, it was far from done. So I decided to build the rest of it on stream with you. The live streaming journey started over on Twitch at the beginning of the year, but as I began interacting with you all, more and more ideas started flowing in. We decided to take the massive step and begin working on a main street going through the city filled with potholes and a bunch of like these water puddles. And this would take the city from like a one-dimensional wall of large buildings to an entirely new immersive feel with a busy Tokyo-esque side street. With the street done, I experimented with some smaller, more abandoned and textured buildings on the other side before actually going through and outlining the rest of the buildings. These buildings would be a lot smaller in size compared to the back wall to keep the view, but they would have way more detail up close. I spent the first few streams building various colors of buildings with lots of new blocks, including mushroom stems, that's a first, as well as making a couple large vertical signs. And after lots of thought, I finally had an idea for how to incorporate you guys into the build itself. Taking a break from the main structure for a bit, I began digging out a massive area behind the main nether portal. I was imagining creating this massive room with a large staircase and expanding part of the city into the underground. After a few hours, most of the digging was done. Yeah, for sure, Brock. And then I began outlining smaller buildings along the sides. The idea here was that I wanted to turn these into sort of a miniature version of the actual city that's on the outside. Next up was the ceiling, and for this, somebody had had a great idea of turning it into a starry nighttime sky, so I went through with a bunch of black concrete, black glass, and even some end rods to act as the stars themselves, and this looks amazing. Oh yeah, I should probably tell you that this part of the build is what I'm calling the Melon Hall, which is a museum that I'm building inside of this world for you. You redeem it by simply watching the streams, and when you do so, you get your own custom enclosure with an armor stand, and it's totally permanent. By now, I dug myself a pretty big hole. Get it? And I wanted to ultimately connect this area up to the city. After some brainstorming, I decided that a subway system would be a really cool detail to add. To begin, I started clearing out this massive rune before digging out the middle section for the tracks. The floors were simple enough with cobbled deep slate and these black yellow bits that looked like guardrails on the end. I even got to experiment with smaller details like these departure and arrival sections with like vending machines and small benches. So much fun. Then came the ceiling, followed by the tracks, and then the subway itself. Okay, yeah, just kidding. That is the Alaskan bullworm. It took me a long time to get the shaping right, but eventually I landed on a design for the train that I'm pretty proud of, using stone, dark prismarine, warped wood, and acacia. I kept the interior pretty simple so I can add details later. By now, the subway was looking pretty cool, but I still felt like it was lacking a little bit of life. So to fix this, I started working on the sidewalls, going in with this fog effect using colored glass and end rods. It looks like a hyperspeed tunnel entering a wormhole or something like that. I don't really know, but it's really cool. And now the subway was done, but I still had one more idea to add to it. You see, by now I'd been streaming consistently for about a month or so, and I figured that making a gigantic subway map art with banners and locations honoring my Twitch mods would be so much fun. I mean, yeah, it took 70,000 white concrete and about 15 hours of my time, but it was way worth it in the end. Okay, well, that was a fun segue, or should I say subway? I'm sorry. But now it was back to the city, this time starting on the front sides of the buildings. I wanted these to be very detailed because I'll be looking at them constantly. Having lots of smaller shops was something that I envisioned, so I began building what would eventually become a cat cafe. I even did some redstone and made the letters flicker. Then I added this cyber bike thing in the garage. I swear to God, if any of you tell me it's a snail, I'm banning you. Then I began upping my sign game by making these cool shades on the roof. Next to that was a ramen shop, and apart from being adorable, I realized here that I could pretty much make any shop I wanted to as long as the billboard was cool. The next few streams were extremely fun. I built a tree shop, a coffee shop, a skate shop. Every day on stream we were coming up with so many cool building ideas. More apartments, an arcade, a karaoke bar, heck, even a real bar. My building confidence was at an all-time high right now. I was learning that as long as I kept shape in mind, I could pretty much build with any block that I wanted to. As the weeks went on, the city got a gym, a pizza place, a mechanic, heck, even an ice cream shop. This place had hot dogs, tacos, shoes. I mean, the city had it all right now. Not to mention the fact that through a different stream reward, a bunch of you guys got a permanent spot along the city street. I mean, look at you, it's so cool. For the first time since its creation, my hardcore world was feeling a lot less lonely. By now, I was a little bit burnt out from exteriors, so I took a break to do some interior planning. And I made sure to keep the bedrock a part of the floor just to flex a little bit. I did a little bit of interior work with this storage area for the mob heads, which by the way, I use a data pack for that. And I even took a day to build this cat cafe, which is so adorable. I said earlier in the video that I wanted to connect the Melon Hall subway system up to the city directly, and now it was time to do that, starting with an insanely long tunnel. The main tunnel consisted of a series of archways, followed by the floor, and eventually these wall decorations. Okay, so now that the tunnel itself is dug out, I need to dig all the way down to bedrock to actually connect this up to the city. I don't think it's very cyberpunk, but this purple black stone spirally tunnel thing is so cool, and it ties the entire build together. To better utilize the space so it's not just entirely a boring hole in the ground, I tested the idea of adding in more hyperspeed portals along the edges, kind of like the ones that I built in the subway. I thought it looked pretty good, so I ended up building 5 portals on each side of different colors. The idea here is simple. The pink portal on one side leads to the pink portal on the other side. To further sell the ideas that these are actually portals you can travel through, I tried my hand at building a couple of flying car spaceship things, and then built around it as if the portal was passing the object through. That was a good start. Next up, I wanted a simple way to fill the massive area of untouched bedrock, so I began building up these ancient city ruins. The idea here is that these buildings were once part of an older city that had been destroyed when the cyberpunk city came to life. I spent the next couple of days finishing up the exterior buildings, adding in more and more moss and greenery to suggest that this section has been long abandoned. And now it's time for arguably my favorite detail of the entire city. I wanted to connect up these portals with a bunch of wires and make it look kind of like a computer motherboard or like a wiring diagram of sorts. I used a gradient of calcite going all the way into blackstone to add more shading, and even though it took about 15 hours of work, this was such an amazing detail in the city. And with that, my friends, the city was officially complete. Wait, what? Hold up, wait a second. What are these coordinates that I just received? All right, we're getting pretty close to the coordinates that I received. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be looking for. Whoa, what in the heck is this? What even is that? Hold up, wait, what? Oh my, I am extremely creeped out right now. What the heck is what is this? There's this like temple thing. Hello, dude, what's going on? Dear Brock, I never actually liked you. Get pranked. Thanks for the city though, Dennis. Oh my god, you are a psychopath. I have a problem. You see, over 2,000 days ago, I began constructing this massive underground base known as the Undergrove. At the time, I called it a mega base, because up to that point, it was the biggest thing I had ever built in Minecraft. But having just spent the last 7 months working to improve my building skills, I'm realizing now that this place feels kinda small. So let's change that today, and give this base the title it truly deserves. First thing this place needs is a proper entrance, because right now it's this, and that's just awkward and clunky. Okay, there we go. And now I think it would be really cool and also very fitting if we go ahead and build a massive custom tree right here to symbolize the entrance of the base. Oh, I forgot that. Okay, to start things off, I think we'll go ahead and grab some oak wood here from the tree farm. I have some. And next up, we need some leaves. I think we'll go ahead here and just use like some regular old-fashioned oak leaves. Those will be pretty good for an oak tree, that is. Okay, that should be enough to start off with. With the entrance to the base officially complete, it was time to start expanding way down into the earth. And I think right through here is actually going to be a great place to start digging. I made these like hallways ages ago, and yeah, I've never done anything with them, so now it's time to do that. Another cave, dude. There are so many caves I have not explored in this world. It's actually crazy. You think I would have found these at some point. After getting sidetracked and maybe a little bit lost lighting up nearby caves, I continued expanding the tunnel, going through with a similar long, twisting, winding shape that I've used in the past. Okay, and there we go. I think the tunnel is pretty much dug out now. It goes all the way down here, wraps around like this, all the way over to here. Ouch. Okay, so to start things off and just make sure I have the shaping right, I think we'll go through here with some spruce slabs just to ensure I can actually walk up and down this thing smoothly. Now we'll go through and dot in bits and pieces of oak logs. And now we'll go through here and dot in a little bit more spruce wood. And finally, we need some moss. So we're gonna go over here to the moss farm. It's been over a year since I've used this thing. What are the odds it even works anymore? Go ahead and turn this bad boy on. Okay, yeah, it doesn't work. With the floor in place, I spent the next morning going through and filling in the walls and the ceiling with the same pattern. I also went through with some leaves and some glowberries, which apart from adding some nice lighting, they make the whole area feel very crammed and crowded, which I really quite like. And after a couple hours of work, the tunnel is complete. It's so immersive in here, dude. I honestly just love the vibes. But we are just getting started, because now I want to go ahead and start expanding this way into the actual underground base. And I think we'll go ahead and kind of turn this into a hobbit hole style entrance. Yeah, I like that. Ooh, I like that a lot. A little extra layer in there. Ooh, that's nice. So the idea here is that we're gonna make this into an underground dwarven kingdom, and for that, I need a really big hole. And first, I think it'd be good if we went through and made this into a massive circle just to get the shaping right. So I went through and began outlining a circle of 50 diameter. You see, at this point, I didn't really know how big the final build would be, but I wanted to make sure I had enough room to work with. Oh, what you doing, dude? How you doing? How's your day going? Oh my god, there's a whole army in here. Alright, well, that's one way of doing things. I continued digging until there was a very important distraction. Cute emergency on aisle couch, got it. Yeah, I think this is gonna work just great. It's also like way bigger than I realized it would be. Oh well, can't go back now. I mean, you literally could just like make it smaller, dude. First order of business, I wanna go ahead and clear out some more space in the ceiling so I can actually breathe and think in here. I spent a while carving out the ceiling, going in with smaller and smaller circles, trying to create this dome effect. Okay, there we go. I can actually breathe in here now, which is really good. It is a little bit off-center, however, so just don't tell anybody and it'll be fine. Our little secret. As far as materials go, I want to go ahead and just keep it really simple with like all of the different wood types. I can't tell you how excited I am just to use like the regular woods again. I now have an excuse to kill wandering traders. And you, get out of here. What are you doing? I spent the next while chopping down various types of trees, killing a bunch of mobs, and getting ready to actually start building. Right now, it just felt good to take a break from all of the automation and the farms and just chop trees. Going through here with this completely original gradient that I made up and no one's ever done before, we'll start things off here in the center with some birch wood, followed by some oak wood, and last up is the dark oak wood, but I can't really reach it, so I guess firstly I need to go ahead and lower the floor by one. And I made a mob farm. Oh, they're attacking me. Ah, look at them, losers. Oh, you guys suck. And I need more wood. With the ceiling complete, I spent one of my live streams clearing out more area, trying to get the shape right. I left the outside part elevated, and then I dug out the middle some more. Now I want to go through here and actually start placing in this upper platform. Going through here, I want to keep the floor really simple with some oak planks. The overall block palette in here is going to be very, very busy, so it's important to keep the floor and other things very bare bones if possible. Okay, with that done, I want to go through and add some lighting in the floor itself, kind of below some trapdoors so it's hidden. I think that would look really cool. Oh my god, it actually lines up perfectly. That might be a first. The last thing I want to do here is go through with some spruce fences to act as a barrier. Yeah, the goal here is to have villagers actually wandering through this upper part, and we know they would just fall in the hole and die. So yeah, thinking about it, they can actually, yep, they can fall through that. So I guess we got to go through and fill in the corners now. Going through here, I wanted to turn the upper area itself into its own mini village, filled with a bunch of these hobbit holes around the big ring in the center. At this point, I was pretty much just freestyling everything I was building, and it was pretty interesting to see what my brain was coming up with. I was like Frodo Baggins out here, just whipping up hobbit holes like it was my job. And I think something like this is actually gonna work really well. The idea is basically to cram as many of these as I can all the way around and then fill it up with villagers. And with a little bit of finessing, I think we can make them work even along the edges here. I mean, this looks nice. I would live here. In the end, I think I ended up making like 22 full hobbit holes, which was way more than I thought, but honestly that's a good thing because I want this whole area to feel very alive. The next morning, I went back through and added in more moss and spruce wood and some leaves to kind of bring the undergrowth vibe into this area. I guess it just felt a little bit too plain right now. I guess the only thing it really needs now is some actual villagers, and I think we should have some right through here at our villager breeder. You guys have not been making babies this whole time? It turns out a while ago, I actually turned off the villager breeder in an attempt to stop lag and prevent another villager massacre like the one we had in episode 9. If you know, you know. But once the breeder was back online, I rerouted the water streams to line up directly above the hobbit village. From there, it was just a matter of digging straight down. You shouldn't do that. Until eventually things lined up. Come on now. Come on now, please work. I feel so bad if they die. Yes! Oh my god, it actually works! That was so easy! That was so easy! Oh no, they can escape. I have a new problem. We are officially on deep slate levels, which means I can say goodbye to my haste too. I don't really know why, but I always seem to run into this problem and just forget that this even exists and that I can't mine it very fast. So it's off to the creeper farm. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be here a while. Since I've made this creeper farm, I've actually been very reluctant to come back here and use it. And I think it's because I never actually decorated the interior. I didn't really have much of a design in mind, but I just went through and added in some simple wood accents on the walls and floor while chopping away at the creepers. There we go, that's looking better. Still gotta kill a lot more of these guys though. 6 stacks of TNT later, I'm feeling pretty good about this. All right, well, here goes nothing. Okay, I'm gonna run now. Oh, well, this is gonna take a while. Looking back, it's actually funny how much easier I thought this process would be. I know removing 64 layers of deep slate isn't easy per se, but I didn't realize that one piece of TNT only blows up like 9 deep slate. That's it. Excuse me, do I know you? So I've already used all 6 stacks of that TNT I gathered, and I'm down to here. I think I'm down like 7 levels or so. Only 55 more to go. As it turns out, using these water streams to transfer the creepers around really slows down the rates of this farm. And I think it'd be best if we actually turn this thing into a portal-based farm. All right, so the first thing to do is gonna be to actually turn off the farm for right now. Starting things off here at the bottom, I cleared out some room to work with and built these water streams leading to a central nether portal. This is where the creepers will enter the nether. Next up was the top section, which involved making another nether portal, but this time way up in the sky above the kill chamber. This is where the creepers will re-enter back into the overworld so I could kill them. And after taking some time to expand our decorations to the new kill chamber, it was time to head into the nether. Taking careful note of the portal locations in the overworld, I went to those locations in the nether and began constructing a platform. The design that I'm going with here is loosely based off of Ian X04's Wither Skeleton Farm. Basically, creepers enter in the first portal and then they slowly push each other along this platform into the second portal, which puts them back into the overworld. Which means it's finally time to remove the torches and turn on the farm. right, there we go. Oh my god, I forgot something. I guess now it's time to wait and see if I just wasted an hour of my life or if I was actually productive. It's actually working really good. It's like raining creepers right now. Hey, how you guys doing? You guys doing good? Having a good day? By now, my TNT production had doubled. I mean, I was like a machine right now. And for a while here, I actually thought there was a chance I would be able to blow up all of this by hand. But I soon realized, yeah, this is taking way too long, even with the upgraded creeper farm. I can't do it like this. But I think I have a better plan. I really can't believe that I didn't think of this sooner. This is gonna make things so much easier. It works! We have technology! Dang it, we have a water cave. Man, I cannot avoid these things. It's been so long since I've had to do this, and I did not miss it. You know, I actually kind of forgot how fun this can be in smaller doses. I'm actually enjoying this. All right, I think this should work. I really hope this works. Oh yeah, we're cooking. So I think I'm 2 hours in clearing out this space with the dupers, and the progress is coming along pretty nicely. As you can see here, we have these like massive trenches dug out, but yeah, there's still an absolute ton of work to do. The old double-sided action here. Oh yeah, it works, baby. I'm learning, I'm adapting, I'm evolving. Okay, so I think we're like 5 hours into this process. I'm definitely getting a little bit burnt out from this. However, I think we're about halfway done destroying this hole, give or take. Maybe a little bit less. I don't even know why I'm talking to you. I should probably just keep on exploding some things. Finally, the hole is pretty much done. Now I want to go through here along the sides and just basically spam torches to spawn-proof this thing. Starting here with the floor, I want to turn this place into a custom biome of sorts. And I think I want to take some inspiration from this green, foggy river we built up here. Firstly, we'll go through here with some glowstone and begin outlining a series of small flowing rivers. Okay, yeah, I think that looks pretty good. After that, I went through with a layer of lime carpets, followed by the extremely tall sidewalls, and eventually 7 layers of glass. And finally, layer number 7 is complete. This took way longer than I want to admit. And even more so, it doesn't even look that cool yet because the surrounding area isn't filled in. But it does look pretty sweet, I guess. Firstly here, we'll need some more spruce wood. I feel like I never have enough of this stuff, to be honest with you. Alright, so to start things off here, we're gonna go through with a layer of melons. Now bear with me, it's not a melon biome, but they're just part of the block palette here. Next up, we'll need some green concrete powder. We're gonna raise this up 1 block like so. Oh. And then we'll go through with the green concrete powder. Next up, we have some lime terracotta, followed up with the spruce wood, which I am going to strip, and finally some coarse dirt. There we go. What do you guys think? I think it looks a little bit weird in small quantities like this, but I feel like as we build more of these land masses, it'll start to actually look cohesive. And there you have it, folks. The custom biome is officially complete. I think it looks pretty good. And you know what? That's where we're actually going to leave things for today. I'm trying out this new thing this year where I actually upload videos. But yeah, let me know what ideas you guys have for the Dwarven Kingdom we're going to build in here, and I will see you in the next one.